Good old Union has come in here to dwell.
Largest union talk radio program in the South. This is the Valley Labor Report. My name is Jacob Morrison, here with my co-host Adam Keller. If you have anything to add today, you can give us a call. The phone number is 844-899-TVLR. That's 844-899-8857. Appreciate everybody hanging out with us today. Bad weather in Alabama, and we are feeling the effects of it. So far, nothing too bad. Don't think I've seen any injuries or serious damage reported, so that's a good sign. That's a good sign. Looking for the worst of it this afternoon. Obviously, be weather aware. We are down a couple of folks here in the studio. That's why we got a little bit of a late start. Apologies for that. I'm not good under pressure, so we were a little bit late. We were a little bit late getting started. So we've got Ben, the owner of the studio, is out of town right now in Florida, and Adam is zooming in today. So it is just me and our board op holding it down in the studio. So appreciate everybody's patience. Hopefully now that we've got going, things will be okay. Can you hear us, Adam?
Yes, I can.
Fantastic. And hopefully folks can hear you, because we were going to be starting the show today with a little bit from you. You have been following, folks know that you work for Alabama Rise. Alabama Rise is a progressive nonprofit advocacy organization in the state of Alabama, a lobbyist for poor folks down in Montgomery. You've been following a lot of the legislation that has been going through the state house, and some of the biggest pieces of news or some of the biggest pieces of legislation here in the state of Alabama have been tax cuts, and for a change, most of the tax cuts have been of the, at the very least, like less objectionable sort, right? And so, Adam, could you, but although, there are still potentially some issues with him. So Adam, can you walk us through, just remind us what the suite of tax cut legislation on offer is right now in Montgomery? Who is introducing these pieces of legislation, and what have the reactions been?
Yeah, happy to do that. We are 1 month out from tax day. So here's a friendly reminder. Taxes are really a big topic in the Alabama legislature right now. This past week, they were actually back home to talk to constituents. So maybe you had a chance to connect with your lawmaker. The big news is on tax reform. So let's start, like you said, with the big package that's being proposed, and it is coming from the Alabama Republican Party. Many folks are aware that the Alabama GOP has a supermajority in the legislature here in Alabama. They also control, the rest of state government. So when the party decides to make something a priority, they typically can, make that happen legislatively. So they have proposed a package of 4 different kind of tax cuts. And the first one is reducing the grocery tax. So the idea is to provide an additional 1% reduction in the state's grocery tax. Some listeners may recall that the grocery tax was reduced back in 2023. This would, further reduce it. Alabama is one of, I believe, only 13 states that does tax groceries, or at least until 2023 was one of only 13 states to fully tax groceries. And this is something that, folks across the aisle have really been calling for years. You mentioned Alabama Rise. I do want to be clear. I'm just speaking in my personal capacity. I'm not speaking for anyone at this moment but myself. But Alabama Rise has been advocating for ending the grocery tax for, 20 plus years. So it's interesting that the Alabama Republican Party, which has been in control of Alabama government for the last 15 or so of those years, Now all of a sudden, it is apparently a very big priority. And so it's getting a lot of praise from, like I said, across the aisle. Many Democrats have campaigned on ending the grocery tax as well over the years. So we will see what happens with that. Real quick, the other tax changes that are being proposed maybe aren't as flashy, but one would be to it would actually double the state's tax exemption for withdrawals from retirement plans from $6,000 to $12,000. According to John Wall, the Alabama Republican Party chairman, he believes this would cut taxes by about $45 million annually on those retirees, folks with fixed incomes. The other changes would be increasing the income floor on income taxes and expanding the standard deduction. So they're looking at another $23.8 million cut in state income taxes there. And so that's a little bit about what's being proposed. Representative Danny Garrett has actually sponsored the grocery tax bill, HB 386. And, Democrats have indicated that they would put forth their own legislation about the grocery tax. I'm not sure if that has made it yet. At least the last reporting I saw, it hadn't been proposed. So, it's still only taking it down. It's not completely eliminating it. There was some reluctancy to do this over the last couple of years because of concerns about the education trust fund budget. Because that is where this tax revenue goes. It goes into the ETF, which is what funds all public education in the state. So there were some concerns about that and the hit to the budget. In the Alabama Reflectors article that just came out this week about it, which I do recommend, it was a very good breakdown. Senator Andrew Jones, he was a big advocate of the grocery tax reduction back in 2023. He said that he thought the grocery tax cut would be funded, at least in part, by allowing the overtime wage tax cut to expire. That was also passed back in 2023. It had a sunset provision for this June. And at the time, they estimated that it would cost the Education Trust Fund budget about $34 million a year. But it's estimated that it's cost more than $230 million and counting. So, that has been a controversial topic as well. I know that the Alabama AFL-CIO, the State Labor Federation, has been pushing hard to maintain that overtime tax cut. Meanwhile, I actually just saw a piece from the Economic Policy Institute this week that was criticizing tax cuts on overtime wages, which we can get into here in a second. But, those are some of the big moving pieces going on right now in terms of taxes. And I did want to mention real quick the context in which this is happening in, because there was also a recent article in Alabama Political Reporter, about the latest PARCA report. The Public Affairs Research Council of Alabama, every year they do these reports about revenue and where Alabama ranks in terms of other states in the country in raising revenue. And when you adjust for population, Alabama is only trailed by Tennessee in taxes, collecting $4 less per capita. But that's not including the state lottery. All the southeastern states besides Alabama have a lottery. And when you do factor in the lottery revenue, Alabama ranks last in terms of raising revenue as a state. A couple of reasons why that is the case. Per capita property taxes are the lowest in the nation. But the flip side to that is our sales tax rates are among the highest in the country. So the revenue we raise as a state is inadequate to fund even, an average American quality of life. Yet the taxes we do raise are very regressive. It's, a lot of sales taxes on things like food, groceries, which disproportionately hurt poor and working class people. So it's interesting to see this conversation happening. I think part of it, some people are a little surprised by it because at the national level, I don't think it's controversial to say that Republicans have been primarily focused on cutting taxes for the wealthy and for corporations through their changes at DC. So, some people are a little surprised to see this from Alabama Republicans, but I believe part of it is just frankly that the wealthy and corporations already have it stacked in their favor so much that there's just not a whole lot left to cut from them, right? I mean, another thing that happens in our tax code is that we are the only state that allows a full deduction for federal income taxes that are paid, which is a tax break that benefits, high income earners disproportionately. So we're the only state to allow both individuals and corporations to fully deduct federal income taxes paid when they calculate state income taxes. And that drains, anywhere from $800 to $900 million in revenue a year, which, just for context, gaming or gambling is also another proposed revenue source. And we expect that's going to be back in the legislative session when they return from break next week. And most of the estimates of the gaming packages, even if you were to combine, sports betting, casino gambling, and a lottery, it's still significantly less than what the state could raise by repealing the federal income tax deduction. So I know I just threw a lot of numbers out there, a lot of taxes, but it's very interesting to see this going on in the legislature. And as always, I encourage you to, pay attention and to be engaged with your lawmakers and let them know how you feel about these issues.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I saw somewhere that I didn't see you mention, that the Democrats have maybe something of a competitor suite of tax cuts that amount to like $1.9 billion over some number of years, supposedly. And what the suite does is it combines a lot of these tax cuts that the Republicans are proposing, and it pays for them by rolling back some of the tax cuts for the wealthy that you've been talking about, or that we've been talking about, like the Choose Act, the private school voucher scam, and the federal income tax deduction to pay for all of those things. So that's a pretty interesting kind of thing. I'm not typically a person that is super. I don't get excited about tax cuts, right? You might get me to be, kind of begrudgingly in favor of something like that. Particularly, I'm, not super excited about them, particularly in a state like Alabama, where, like Adam said, we have the lowest, literally the lowest revenue generation in the country. So tax cuts in general are just not something that excites me. But if you compare that with, removing tax cuts for the wealthy, you start to get me excited. So we'll keep an eye on that and let y'all know what happens, obviously. We're going to be talking to Jack Jacobs here in a moment. Have we got him in the Zoom? Jack is not in the Zoom yet, so we'll keep on talking about this, the tax cut stuff. And so, have you seen that, Adam, the Democrats' suite of tax cut legislation?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I haven't, read the legislation yet, so I can't say I'm an expert by any means. But, I do think I think that context was important, right? Because to your point, tax cuts in this context do come with consequences when you look at, our public schools. Our public schools are not extremely well funded compared to the rest of the country. We do have the Choose Act, which is expected to drain at least $100 million per year at the beginning, but can really grow, to an unlimited amount, virtually. And we've seen the way voucher programs have drained education budgets in other states. So, all those things really do factor in together. And, I think I would encourage Alabama legislators to look at how can we fund an adequate, state government? How can we fund an adequate public service system? How can we fund a better quality of life for Alabama? Because, the average quality of life here in Alabama is not good. It is not good. We are very, poorly ranking on virtually any statistic. And it is connected to this lack of revenue generation and lack of public investment in education, in infrastructure, in healthcare, in transportation, in criminal justice reform, right? There are issue after issue after issue where the state government has kind of kicked the can down the road. I hear a lot of lawmakers complain about workforce participation rates, right? That's something that comes up a lot because Alabama does also rank pretty low on workforce participation.
Right. And when you and it's going to be and that's going to be the case when you have so many of these things that cost money to fund, right? And so we're obviously going to continue talking about that. We do have Jack Jacobs in the Zoom now. Jack Jacobs is an attorney at law at Maples, Tucker and Jacobs. They are a union and worker side labor law firm here in the state of Alabama. Jack, welcome to the program. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us.
Good morning, guys. It's good to be here.
It's great to have you. Obviously, been talking to you off the air for a long time. I think that you and the Ironworkers Local 477 are the only advertisers that we've had on the program that have been with us since the beginning and have and there hasn't been any drop off or drop on, so you and the Ironworkers really keeping us going. So we really appreciate that.
Awesome.
And we appreciate the work that you do, outside of giving us money. So can you just let the audience know, like, generally, what are the kind of cases that you and your law firm work on?
I would say a lot of work that we do is with coal miners here in Alabama, just those guys and women when they get hurt. A lot of what we call federal black lung cases as well, which is a federal workers' compensation program. And we do some railroad cases as well. So the guys that work with SMART or the other railroad affiliated unions, whether those are Carmen or what have you. So it's a lot of that is our primary practice, but we also represent a lot of steel workers out at U.S. Steel here in Birmingham. So,
and I've talked to a bunch of different labor lawyers, and like, generally speaking, you're still an attorney. You make, like, I'm assuming, reasonable amounts of money, but I have never met a labor attorney that couldn't, like, almost double their income by going into a management side law firm. And particularly, when there's like a premium placed on, conversion, so to speak, right? I mean, being able to know kind of what the other side thinks. So, just generally speaking, you're going to make more money if you go work for the bad guys. But especially if you have previously worked for the good guys. And so, like, why is it that you do the work that you do, trying to help, coal miners get their black lung benefits and things like that, instead of going and working for a management side law firm?
Oh, I just could never imagine doing that kind of work personally. I mean, that's not how Mama raised me, I guess, to put it bluntly. But right. My parents weren't rich lawyers; they were working class folks. My mom worked for the Treasury Employees Union here in Birmingham with the IRS, and my dad, was working for AT&T. For a number of years, but kind of, he got laid off like AT&T does every so often, and kind of bounced around jobs. And so he was never really, stable, but just, trying to make a living and take care of his family. So, I appreciate those kind of things because it's hard out there. A lot of these jobs, there are a lot of risk, and just really trying to do what we can to, represent our clients. Sometimes we have to, take on things that may or may not be profitable for us, but we just feel like it's the right thing to do. A lot of the black lung cases we work on, they might, typically will drag on 3 or 4 years before we get paid on anything. So it's kind of, to be in the position of having to front costs and expenses and experts and then wait 4 years to get paid back is kind of, maybe not the best business model out there, but we think it's an important one.
What is the state of, black lung protections and stuff like that? I didn't prep you for this, so I'm, if you're not ready for this, you can just let me know. But I'm curious about the state of the laws and regulations around black lung. Like what does it take to actually get a black lung benefit payout for somebody who's been affected by this workplace illness? I've been reading recently about Jim Folsom, and there was some really exciting things happened under Jim Folsom with the help of the United Mine Workers of America, including at least according to one historian, one of the most progressive workers' comp benefits for black lung in the country. And so has that been kind of degraded over the years? It's just speaking in like nationally and in the state of Alabama. I'm curious about kind of what the state of things are.
Yeah, I think there used to be an Alabama specifically had a black lung program. It's now really just encompassed more in their general workers' comp. But typically what we see is a lot of the miners who would qualify or have a severe impairment really don't develop that until they've been out of the mines for a number of years. So they might be out 10 years, and then start developing breathing problems, or severe breathing problems at least. So that the state benefits are somewhat limited in that regard. I mean, we do occasionally see guys, and I will say typically it's miners who have worked in Kentucky or West Virginia, where the conditions are worse and they're breathing a lot more silica than they do here. Right. And those guys are really getting some bad, what we call complicated black lung, which is, a terminal condition that's probably going to, 4 or 5 years is probably your life expectancy with that kind of diagnosis. And unfortunately, we don't see that a lot in Alabama so much as they do in other parts of the country.
What do you credit that to? I've read about that as well. Kim Kelly, I'm sure has done some really good reporting about the rise of black lung, and it's been mostly contained to to West Virginia and Kentucky. Like Alabama has not seen the rise in black lung cases, at least in my understanding, as they have in other parts of the country. And there have been some different theories as to why that might be. One is that the silica dust is this thing this material that is more prevalent the kind of thinner the coal seams get. I think that's what it's called. And so the seams in West Virginia and Kentucky, my understanding is that they have been dug out more thoroughly than in Alabama. So that may be one reason, is that you're just getting into more places with silica dust in West Virginia and Kentucky. But another reason, and I'm curious what your thoughts are about this, is that Alabama's coal mines are still highly unionized, which is not the case anymore in West Virginia and Kentucky. West Virginia and Kentucky's coal miners are largely non-union, and so they don't have the same protections as they do in Alabama. What do you make of the increased prevalence in black lung in West Virginia and Kentucky and not in Alabama?
I do think the unionization does play a part in it. Obviously, if you're a worker and the company is not maintaining adequate water sprays on the equipment, you can complain about it and not have to worry about getting retaliated against as much if you're in the union. They just can't fire you without cause. And not go through a process here. But I think, the larger problem, I believe, is just the mining itself. Is you're cutting as those places have mined out the easier coal to get to. Basically, they're having to cut a lot more rock, a lot more quartz specifically, and so we don't have as much quartz here. It's more limestone, so we're not getting, and it's just kind of the luck of geology that we're not having those issues in Alabama. But my understanding, but as mining equipment has gotten more efficient in the sense that they can clean it better and they can mine more coal that they couldn't have mined efficiently, 30, 40 years ago, those seams that were not have been mined back then are mined now. And so you're getting a lot more of this rock and quartz silica dust in the air, which is 20 times worse for you than coal dust.
So as we're wrapping up, I wanted you to walk us through this case that you have. You are representing some of the security guards at Warrior Met Coal who were employed by Warrior Met throughout the strike. And so so some people might hear that and say, well, why are you representing these folks? They're working for the company even while there was a strike. But ultimately, the idea is that, well, we're wanting to punish the company because the company was even screwing over these security guards as they were employing the security guards to try to help them break the strike. Walk us through the details of this case and why you decided to take it on.
Well, I mean, honestly, it was actually a referral from the union. They had reached out to the mine workers. One of the guys had and said, "Hey, look, they're not paying us like they should. Who do y'all use to handle these kind of cases?" And they kind of sent them our way. Well, all right, well, if you're okay with it, we're okay with it. But yeah, I mean, you just have one set of working class guys who are being pitted against another set of working class guys. I mean, honestly, and that's really how this kind of played out. These security guards, and it's interesting. It's kind of a small world of guards that do this type of work, and it's not just strikes. It's also FEMA events, like where they have a hurricane come in and they need security to provide just basic stuff to prevent looting and that kind of thing. So, but they come in and do this work, and they're getting paid a day rate of $350 a day, working 14-hour shifts effectively, as quote unquote contract labor, which you can't do. And so it was just, and some of these guys are working 4 weeks on, maybe a week or two off, and then come back and go back and forth. And so there's a lot of, overtime, hourly wages that are owed to these guys, and women, a few women too, that just, weren't being paid. And these contractors try to get up on the cheap by just, hey, there's not much going on right now. Come work here for this daily rate and just suck it up and deal with it. And they said, no, we're not going to do that. So good for them.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And so you are the basic gist of it is that the company didn't pay overtime, and so that's what you're asking for. Do you have like an estimate of how much you think that you're going to be able to get out of Warrior Met for this case?
Well, I don't know specifically out of Warrior Met. Just there's some contractual provisions between the people involved. I mean, Warrior Met was not directly hiring the contractors, so there are security companies involved, and so it's on a certain level, it's not my problem. It's just my job is to get money for the guys that are working, and however it gets divided up between Allied Security, RMS, and Warrior Met is kind of at the end of the day, they got to figure that out. So, it's a considerable amount of money, considering, if you're only getting paid this rate, and it's a little complicated, but, if you're scheduled to work 12, you end up working 14, 15 hours a day. So there's hours you aren't paid for, there's overtime you're not being paid for. It's it can be, probably a couple $1,000s a week that these guys are getting shorted, depending on what their schedule was. So when you've got 25, 30 guards out there a week, it starts adding up pretty quick when the strike went on for 2 years.
Right. So. Right. All right. Well, we'll keep an eye on that. Definitely let us know when it wraps up, and keep up the good work, Jack. Really appreciate your time.
Well, thank you guys, and thanks for all y'all do for fighting for working folks. It's beautiful to see. So,
absolutely.
Thanks.
Well, appreciate it. Jack Jacobs, attorney at law, Maples, Tucker & Jacobs, LLC. You can find them online. If you need somebody to fight for you, get in touch with them. We're going to take a break, and we'll be right back.
The attorneys at Maples, Tucker & Jacobs have stood with the working people of Alabama for over 40 years, providing skilled legal representation for your workplace injury claims. When you are injured on the job, it can be a scary time. The attorneys at Maples, Tucker & Jacobs have the experience to guide you through the process to make sure that you and your family are properly taken care of and your rights are protected. If you need help, call the attorneys at Maples, Tucker, and Jacobs at 855-617-9333 or visit online at www.mtnj.com. No representation is made that the quality of legal services provided is greater than the quality of legal services provided by other law firms.
Support for the Valley Labor Report comes from the International Federation of Professional and Technical Engineers Union. Learn more by visiting www.ifpte.org.
Are you looking for a better future, a career that can have you set for life, and to be a part of something that's bigger than yourself? If you are, then consider a skilled trades apprenticeship with the International Union of Painters and Allied Trades. The work of IUPAT is all around us, from the industrial painters who work on the bridges to drywall finishers, floor coverers, the glazers who install the glass in our skylines, and so much more. With an IUPAT apprenticeship, you earn while you learn and receive benefits while learning the trade, including a pension. We provide world-class education free of charge. That's right, no student debt. Our starting salaries for apprentices that graduate is above the national median salary with benefits for entire families. And you have the flexibility to take your trade wherever you'd like in the country to work. IUPAT District Council 77 covers our entire region, so give Adam Booth a call at 205-603-3142 for more information. Again, that phone number is 205-603-3142. Come build a better future with us today and join IUPAT.
We're the nurses, firefighters, and claims representatives that help keep our government services running. We respond to natural disasters. We care for our nation's veterans, and we investigate discrimination in the workplace. We are federal and D.C. government workers, and we are proud to serve the American people. Working in more than 70 agencies across the government, we know we can fulfill our mission because our union has our back. Learn more at afge.org. Paid for by the American Federation of Government Employees, AFL-CIO.
Since 1889, the National Association of Letter Carriers has protected the rights of city carriers as they deliver the mail and offer support for their community. The Alabama State Association of Letter Carriers makes their legislative voices heard when it comes to issues involving the U.S. Postal Service and the working members of the union. The National Association of Letter Carriers has been longtime supporters of the Muscular Dystrophy Association and the Stamp Out Hunger food drive. This message is sponsored by the Alabama Association of Letter Carriers. To learn more, visit NALC.org. Unite Here is also a supporter of the Valley Labor Report. They are a labor union that represents 300,000 working people across Canada and the United States. Their members work in the hotel, gaming, food service, manufacturing, textile, distribution, laundry, transportation, and airport industries. You can learn more about Unite Here at unitehere.org.
How the good old union has come in here to dwell.
A battle in the heart of Alabama caught our attention. Coal miners in one community, they've been on strike now for months.
Working as long as 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, in some of the most dangerous conditions.
I really think that the labor movement is the single greatest force for democracy in the history of the United States.
The story of Alabama is a story of not just resilience, but of militancy.
I say no contract, you say no code. No contract, no contract.
If we ain't all free, ain't none of us free.
You're listening to Alabama's only union talk radio show, The Valley Labor Report, with Adam Keller and Jacob Morrison.
That's right, folks. From the mountains of Kentucky to the bayous of Louisiana, broadcasting online and on the radio from the heart of the Tennessee Valley, the Spice Radio Studios in Huntsville, Alabama. This is the Valley Labor Report. My name is Jacob Morrison, here with my co-host and fellow agitator, Adam Keller. Today on the program, we have two guests from the United auto workers to talk about their building power in the state of Tennessee. We also just finished a conversation about fighting for working people with Jack Jacobs at Workerside Labor Law Firm here in the state of Alabama. We will also get to more on today's program. If you want to be a part of the show today, we've got a phone number and the line is open. That phone number is 844-899-TVLR. That's 844-899-8857. We can also take a voicemail throughout the week, and we might respond to it on the next show. If you haven't gotten enough of us by the time that we wrap up here on the radio, or if you just want to see what we're up to throughout the week, you can find us anywhere you find anything online, in particular at our website, tvlr.fm, but we are also on YouTube, Facebook, and wherever you get your podcasts, all at The Valley Labor Report. Just a reminder, your support helps us stay on the air. Our largest single source of funding comes directly from our listeners, so if you want to become a sustaining donor to the program or make a one-time donation, you can go to tvlr.fm/donate or patreon.com/The Valley Labor Report. We also have a bunch of cool merch for sale at tvlr.fm/store. We have our logo dad caps and union-made matchbooks, and we should be getting our unionized tees in this week, so we'll be shipping those out soon. And finally, if you're a member of a union, think about getting your local to sponsor the show. You can reach out to us for more details on that at tvlr.fm/contact.
Hey y'all, let me add a disclaimer that any viewpoints or opinions expressed in this program belong solely to their author and do not necessarily represent any organization or sponsor. We welcome all of our listeners, whether you're on YouTube, Facebook, Unclaimed Mysteries Internet Radio, WVNN, WZZA, WHIV, WMMT, WGOW, or through your favorite podcast app. We are proud to be part of the Labor Radio Podcast Network and encourage our listeners to check that out. As most of you know, we are not media professionals, just a few diehard unionists who want to amplify the voices of the working class here in the American South. We're hoping this project can make a difference on that front, and we can't do it without you. So we want to thank everyone for tuning in, whether you're a loyal fan or a first-time listener. We appreciate you spending some time with us.
And with that, we're going to jump right into Last Week in Southern Labor. Last Week in Southern Labor is a segment that we do every week where we take a look at what workers in the U.S. South and the American colonies were up to. Here's what they were up to from March 7th to the 14th. In new union campaigns, 5 workers at Titan Truck and Equipment in Overland, Missouri, filed a petition to hold a union election with the International Union of Operating Engineers, IUOE, Local 513. 3 workers at HHS Government Services, LLC, in Fort Eustis, Virginia, filed a petition to hold a union election with the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, IBEW District 4. 18 workers at UFCW Local 1996 in Sewanee, Georgia, filed a petition to hold a union election themselves with the Federation of Agents and International Representatives, FAIR. 24 workers at New Orleans Regional Transit Authority in New Orleans, Louisiana, filed a petition to hold a union election with the Teamsters Local 270. 51 workers at Nelson Tree Service in Pikeville, Kentucky, filed a petition to hold a union election with IBEW Local 369. 10 workers at Imperial in Joplin, Missouri, filed a petition to hold a union election with the Teamsters Local 823. And 14 workers at Newbold Services in London, Arkansas, filed a petition to hold a union election with the Laborers International Union of North America, LIUNA, Local 360. In election results, 1 worker at AGL Services Company in Atlanta, Georgia, voted 1-0 in favor of unionization with IBEW Local 1997. Folks, IBEW had a pretty good week this week in election results. 13 workers at Appalachian Power in Bluefield, West Virginia, voted 10-1 in favor of unionization with IBEW Local 978. 34 workers at ADT in Maryland Heights, Missouri, voted 4-23 in favor of decertifying IBEW Local 1. That was the standout. Not good for IBEW, but we got some more good news for IBEW, where 18 workers at AEP Texas in Aransas Pass, Texas, voted 15-3 in favor of unionization with IBEW Local 738. 18 workers at Starbucks in Tampa, Florida, voted 11-2 in favor of unionization with Starbucks Workers United, as did another location in St. Louis, Missouri, 11-4, but 17 workers at a location in Louisville, Kentucky, voted 6-9 against unionization. 13 workers at Public Television 19 in Kansas City, Missouri voted 0-8 in favor of decertifying the National Association of Broadcast Employees and Technicians, NABET-CWA, as their union. 24 workers at Johnson Controls Fire Protection in North Little Rock, Arkansas voted 2-22 against unionization with the UA's Road Sprinkler Fitters Local 669. And 30 workers at Georgia Power in Atlanta, Georgia voted 15-8 in favor of unionization with the IBEW Local 84. In strikes and bargaining updates, bus drivers in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, unionized with the Amalgamated Transit Union, ATU, Local 1546, ended their strike against the Capital Area Transit System in the city last week after the city agreed to withdraw their illegal imposition of a contract on the workers and go to arbitration. The strike lasted 6 days. Bus drivers in Mobile, Alabama, unionized with ATU, Local 770, engaged in a one-day sick out against the company's against the city's private transit company Wave to attend a city council meeting and protest the city's bad faith bargaining, or the company's bad faith bargaining. International Alliance of Theatrical and Stage Employees, IATSE, Local 492, which covers Tennessee, Kentucky, and northern Mississippi, are striking a Memphis venue which is now trying to bring in scabs, per a report from a 492 member. Fairfax education unions in Virginia continue to fight a budget from the County Board of Supervisors that would underfund the contract that they won with the Board of Supervisors by $150 million. UE Local 150, representing public sector workers in North Carolina, is opposing a plan to raise health insurance premiums. In political and legislative updates, both houses of the Kentucky legislature passed a bill to weaken workplace safety rules in the state, although it did include an amendment to make it not quite as bad, although it is still bad. It now heads to Governor Andy Beshear to sign. He has not said what he will do. The Mississippi Senate passed a bill to study replacing state government jobs with AI. It now heads to the House. In better news out of that state, though, both houses of the legislature passed paid parental leave for state employees, although not teachers. With the House passing it 118-0, it now heads to the governor for signature. Efforts continue in Missouri to overturn a ballot initiative that would raise the minimum wage and institute paid sick leave. The House passed a bill that would repeal the initiatives tying the minimum wage to inflation and overturn the sick leave portion of the initiative entirely. It needs to be approved one more time in the House before heading to the Senate. Alabama Democrats are introducing legislation to maintain their overtime tax cut in the state, although the Economic Policy Institute points out that these policies are ripe for abuse, further complicate the tax code, and encourage excessive hours of work and exert downward pressure on base wages. In good news for federal workers, 2 federal judges now have ordered the reinstatement of illegally fired probationary employees at the VA, Agriculture, Interior, Energy, Defense, Commerce, Education, HHS, HUD, Homeland Security, Labor, Transportation, EPA, USAID, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, and the Treasury Departments. In his ruling, one of the judges called the government's arguments a sham and lies. In good news for private sector workers, Gwen Wilcox is now back at work as a member of the National Labor Relations Board after she was illegally fired by President Donald Trump. In bad news for federal workers, Postmaster General DeJoy supposedly has inked a deal with Doge to cut 10,000 jobs at the post office. Postal unions are opposed. The Budget Lab at Yale determined that Trump's push to lay off half of the IRS would cost the government $350 billion over 10 years in lost revenue from tax evasion. Some audits of big companies are likely being closed as we speak. Congress passed a budget last week with the help of 10 Democratic senators who said in large part they were doing this to support federal workers, despite the fact that federal worker unions opposed the continuing resolution, specifically because it would allow the illegality of Doge and Co. to continue unchecked. Act in Internal Union Affairs, the Reform Caucus within IATSE, the Caucus of Rank-and-File Entertainment Workers, CREW, has released a slate of resolutions that they are taking to the 2025 Quadrennial Convention of the International Union, all aimed at giving more power to rank-and-file members. Chief among the resolutions being the implementation of one member, one vote for leadership positions. That's it for us this week. If we missed something, let us know at tvlr.fm/contact. And we're going to jump right into our interview with Chuck Davenport. Chuck Davenport is the Region 8 Servicing Director for the United Auto Workers Union. Chuck, welcome back to the program. It's great to have you.
Good morning, Jacob. Thank you for having me.
Really appreciate you taking the time this morning. We had some, we wanted to bring you on to talk about the good news out of Ultium in Spring Hill, Tennessee. But before we get to that, can you just lay out the general kind of poor state of working conditions in the EV industry and talk about how companies are trying to use this transition away from internal combustion engines to degrade working conditions and why it's so important that workers like those at Ultium in Spring Hill and at Bossk in Kentucky are standing up?
It's very important. You know, these big three companies are teaming with these foreign companies in foreign countries, and they're coming over here for the technology. But the problem is they don't have OSHA standards from where they're at. They don't have regular working conditions, work rules. It's really concerning of some of the things, especially when it comes to health and safety of the workplace. We were very fortunate that we were the second Ultium sales plant. We still have some things that we're working through, but the very first Ultium sales plant in Lordstown, Ohio had a lot more accidents, a lot more issues with OSHA. And so because of that, I think they straightened up some of their stuff that they needed to straighten up when they got to Spring Hill. And it's, even though we, are always looking at health and safety, these are not traditional plants. These are not plants that there's no plant like this Ultium sales plant that General Motors has anywhere in the United States. It's totally different. The work conditions are different. It's a lot of automation, a lot of things that they use to make these cells that can be volatile, that you don't see in a regular assembly plant. And so it's very important that we follow all these health and safety standards, and so it keeps the people safe. So they come to work and they're able to go home the same way they got there for that day.
Exactly. The state of working conditions in these plants, like you said, are significantly degraded from what the previous standard was, and the level of pay is also significantly less than what you would make in a big three, internal combustion engine plant. Can you talk to us about like kind of the disparities in wages and and like compensation generally in these two different kinds of plants?
Sure. It's I know some of the people that were on our bargaining committee, when they applied to hire in here in Spring Hill in December of 23, they were quoted a wage of $20.27. But because the Ultium Sales 1 in Lordstown was coming up under the national agreement, they were really trying to buy the employees here in Spring Hill and offering them the wages under the national agreement even before they got unionized. So they did that basically almost 9 months early. So when one of our bargaining committee come in, he actually came to work in January of 24. He went from 2027 that he was quoted to 2691 before he even started. So, and a lot of people, thank goodness, they recognize that the company wasn't just giving them increased wages because they liked them. They were giving them increased wages because they didn't want them to be unionized. Because we are very fortunate here. We have now that we've got the 1,000 people at Ultium, we have over 5,500 union jobs here in Spring Hill, Tennessee. And companies see the news, they see the employees see, hey, the company right down the street from me just got a union contract. They just got a ratification bonus. They got improved health care. And so all those people that were at Ultium, a lot of them had maybe worked in some of these other unionized plants that, they just want to try to get into what they thought might be a GM job. And so they transferred. So they automatically knew then the conditions wasn't the same. The work rules wasn't the same. The company was changing things every day if they wanted to, and there was nothing they could do about it until they stood up. And, we talked previously, we were able to organize this 1,000 people within 7 weeks, which was a great job for the internal committee to work with us and the local union here, because, we actually literally had to go around and get those people to sign cards. And because they agreed to a card check. But to do that, we ended up signing, I think the head count in the plant is 930 right now, and we have about 860 something cards. So we're over 90% unionized, and we continue to work on those. And we know that some of them, for whatever, their family or whatever, don't believe in unions, and we might not get them all, but we want to get as many of them as we can, and we strive to do that, working with it every day. We don't alienate the people that's not a union member. We're still trying to pull them into the fold to show them, and they do know. I mean, it's just like they're already seeing the benefits of a union contract. I mean, they just got paid yesterday $3,000 lump sum payment that come out of negotiations of the contract.
Yeah, it's really exciting to hear about it, and I'm sure it's really cool being an Ultium worker, seeing, literally the fruits of organizing and the benefits of that in a big fat check immediately after finishing after finishing negotiating this local agreement. And so that's the recent news. In the last couple of weeks, workers at Ultium Cells in Spring Hill, Tennessee have ratified a local addendum to the national contract. They immediately, when they unionized sometime last year, they immediately fell under the national contract that the UAW has with Ultium. And so if there's anything that you haven't told us about some of the benefits that they got from the national contract, I'd be interested in hearing those. But talk to us about what are some of the things that they won in the recent local addendum that was just negotiated and ratified in the last couple of weeks, in addition to that nice $3,000 ratification check.
Well, one thing we did, we brought them up to speed with the national agreement when we were recognized on September 9th. The 401k increase that they hadn't received because they wasn't technically all the way up. They hadn't done their local agreement. So from September 9th until they transferred into GM employees, we've also had that Ultium and GM has put in 10% of their wages into a 401 that is consistent with a national agreement. But on top of that, because of that time period, there was also 8.8% increase in funds. They got the interest on top of that. But one of the things is, it's not all about the money. They have good health and safety language. They have a procedure if something's not right to file a complaint on health and safety. They're in the process. We won 4 UAW health and safety reps. So every shift will have a UAW safety rep in conjunction with the safety reps from the company. So we have a seat at the table that we can bring up health and safety concerns. We have they just won benefits reps to help them with their new benefits plans that they have. We have EAP reps in case somebody has something going on in their life that we won. Things that they have now is they were told when they first hired was, hey, we'll put you on this shift, and after we get acclimated and trained, you'll be able to move around. Well, that never happened. So they have avenues to to transfer from shift to shift, department to department. They've just now have where they can post for open jobs that they've not been able to do for 2 years. It was a supervisor putting their friends or who they liked into these open jobs. Now they have stuff. They have ways to move around. They have an actual framework that they can hold management accountable, and they're able to take better jobs inside the plant or get off night shift to go to day shift if their seniority holds them. They have a seniority language now that they have to honor. They have overtime language that equalizes their overtime in their departments. That it's not pick and choose who the supervisor wants to get extra hours. So all of that is great things that come with a new contract, and it's interesting to see in all the ratification meetings. Have a lot of interested people asking good questions that some of them knew about working under a union contract and others had no idea. So they see the benefits, just like last week they posted for shift preferences. So this is the first time that people are going to be able to use their seniority to move from shift to shift. Right. And that's a big thing, that affects people's home lives.
Yep, absolutely. And, so much of what you just said really sticks out to me as this should be just kind of a basic human decency sort of question, right? I mean, if I'm running a company and I have a better position that comes up, it seems to me the decent thing to not do it because I like Billy and I don't like Joe, but rather to have some sort of system that allocates these better jobs in a fair way by seniority or something, in particular by seniority, because people like to try to lambaste seniority and try to make seniority seem like a bad thing, but seniority is really important and should absolutely be respected, because what seniority means is that you have given that many years of your life to this company. And so, if I have given 20 years of my life to a company, particularly if those 20 years were like my best years. I worked for a company from when I was 25 to 45. I should get some freaking perks for that, even if I'm a little bit less efficient than some young gun when coming in at 25, 24 years old, because I came in at 25, 24 years old doing a whole bunch of really fast work and working really quickly, but I also sacrificed the best years of my life to this company, and absolutely I should get something for that. And that just, it's just a human decency sort of thing, but these companies won't do it if we don't make them, and that's why it's so important to unionize. And so, Chuck Davenport, UAW Region 8 Servicing Representative, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us about this great win that y'all had at Ultium Cells over in Spring Hill, Tennessee. Is there anything else that you wanted to make sure that you told us about Ultium or anything else that you have going on before we let you go?
Yeah, we got a lot of contracts going on right now. We actually organized the sanitation company inside Ultium.
That's right.
That it's the same company that works at Spring Hill Manufacturing, the GM plant. So we're very close to getting them a local agreement it's going to be a game changer for them, as well as in the Spring Hill battery plant, which is attached to the assembly plant where Ultium sends the cells over. We're actually we have unionized Logistics Insight, and we're in talks with their first agreement. So a lot of good things are going on here in Spring Hill that people see the value of being a union member. And what I would say to anybody listening to your show, where it's anywhere in the country, is stand up for yourself. Make your life better. Make your working conditions better. Join a union, no matter what no matter what union it is, but join a union and better yourself and better your fellow workers.
Absolutely. Chuck Davenport, UAW Region 8 Servicing Representative, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jacob. Have a good day.
Absolutely. We got another UAW guest lined up. This one, Robert Soderstrom, a VW employee out in Chattanooga, where we are on the air on WGOW. You can find us on YouTube and check us out in if you would like to contribute to the conversation. You can participate in our YouTube chat if you are listening to us on WGOW. You can also call into the program later at 844-899-TVLR. That's 844-899-8857. Robert Soderstrom is a VW Volkswagen Chattanooga body shop employee. He is also a member of the UAW's Volunteer Organizing Committee. Robert, welcome to the Valley Labor Report.
Hey, how are you?
Robert, I'm doing great. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us today. We're going to be talking about some of the latest news with Volkswagen in Chattanooga, but can you just talk to us about, I'm interested in kind of the feeling among folks on the shop floor since the election. Y'all recently unionized with the United Auto Workers by a 2 or 3 to 1 margin in the election. This was the third election that workers there have had, and this one finally they decided to unionize. And so, you know, I saw obviously the videos at the Union Hall and all those like really cool pictures. I mean, folks literally crying because they were so excited to be able to have won that huge battle and to begin to try to make things better inside Volkswagen. And so how has that feeling, has that feeling maintained since the election, or like what's going on, I guess, just generally? How are folks feeling about unionization?
Yeah. So that was that win was a long time coming, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The excitement that carried us for a while, but I mean, you can only sustain a high for so long, and you get back to your regular. And then we started talking about the contract process. We had some interesting meetings, electing our bargaining committee, that kind of thing, getting a little bit of a taste of what union life will be like down the road. But really, I think for most folks, other than the chatter of what this contract might bring, life has sort of gone back to normal. I mean, we're not a union yet officially. Technically we're part of the UAW, but we don't have a contract. So we don't have e-board. We don't have monthly meetings. We don't have representatives per se. So our day-to-day lives are no different now than they were before the election.
Right.
But there's optimism. There's hope now. We are going to get this contract.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's I can imagine that's definitely frustrating. And so it's a really important kind of task that is that's kind of laid at the feet of the UAW and the Volunteer Organizing Committee and the union supporters in the shop to make sure that frustration is channeled correctly at the company for not, accepting a fair deal, because the company could obviously, say like, yeah, we'll agree to do what the big three are doing right now, and that would be a huge increase in your standard of living, quality of life. They could do that at any time, right? And so making sure that to the extent that there is frustration with the kind of length of the bargaining process, that folks know that it's Volkswagen's fault, right? And so let's talk about negotiations. To the extent you can you remind us, it's been a couple of weeks now, but what was Volkswagen's latest offer, and how has the union responded to that?
Oh, the union said thanks, but no thanks. The last offer was it was kind of I don't know, it was an old trick. It was a conditional offer. Basically, they said we're laying all of our cards on the table. This is what we can give you, and this is what we can't give you. So you take all this stuff away, and we'll throw in a couple extra bucks. It was nonsense, and nobody really gave it any serious consideration. I mean, maybe there's a few folks, but I think our bargaining committee took all of 5 minutes to say this was not a good deal.
Right, and that was at. I'm sure that particularly in the media, the way that I saw it framed was, oh, well, this is going to be a big wage increase. And so, I imagine there were some people, especially outside of the shop, who don't recognize kind of the other problems, even besides wages, that y'all are trying to bargain over and trying to fix. I could imagine that there's some people outside of the shop who are saying, well, why didn't you just take that big wage offer? But what were some of the things that they were trying to get the negotiating committee to take off of the table?
They wanted us. They wanted us to take off. I think PTO. We wanted more vacation time. We need more family time, and they said no, we can't do that. I don't remember the whole list. I think they wanted us to take away our right to strike over grievances. We're not going to do that. They let's see what else. Honestly, I don't remember. I wish I did. It was such a lousy offer. I looked at it and it went out of my mind. It wasn't good. But I can tell you the list of things they wanted us to withdraw far exceeded the list of things they were willing to give us, and it just wasn't great. I mean, I can give you an example. Is like with our medical insurance. If you had a family, I think over the course of 4 years, it would cost you somewhere around $45,000 if you needed to really utilize your medical insurance. And
wow.
Volkswagen was gracious enough to reduce that to $37,000.
Oh.
So, and what we're asking for is that a company that makes $20 billion in profit every year pay for our insurance. That's industry standard. Yep. That's not a big ask. And so it was just...
Absolutely. No, and that makes sense that you didn't spend too much time trying to memorize all of the things, because I mean, just that one thing, right, is like, well, you can you can kind of forget what you're trying to do here, because that's crazy. And so I have the press release that the bargaining committee put out, but they said that we would have to give up the things that, remember, that just for the audience, when the UAW was formulating the bargaining issues that they were going to take to the Volkswagen, they surveyed the members. And so the members told the bargaining committee things that they wanted to be prioritized in bargaining. And so some of the things that Volkswagen was trying to get the bargaining committee to give up was, like you said, paid time off, bargaining over longer break times or more break times, an attendance bonus, and a shift premium, increased 401k contributions. They wanted to take that off the table, improving healthcare, like you said, and job security measures to protect you in the event of a layoff. That is a huge thing that, UAW members at the big three have protections against layoffs that people at Volkswagen have not had historically. And in the event that they are laid off, if you have enough seniority, you get income replacement for a certain period of time until you can get your job back, right? And so the idea that you would just say, no, we're not gonna negotiate over layoff protections is crazy, right? And so that's how, and it sounds like, people inside the plant, not just the negotiating committee. It sounds like the reaction from people inside the plant was largely, like, this is not a good offer.
No, they got a little bit fired up over that. We had a couple of interesting days of we had a real big Red Shirt Wednesday. We had one line go a little bit rogue and showed Volkswagen that we ain't playing. They all stood in solidarity and worked in their red shirts all day, and we was pretty happy to see that. So yeah, we did not accept that.
Well, there you go. So that's really exciting to hear, and it's exciting to hear that they've been that you and your coworkers have been able to kind of withstand. Maybe there hasn't been pressure from the community. Has there been any pressure from the community or the media to try to make y'all look like the kind of bad guys or like greedy union people?
No, not at all. None that I've seen. With the exception of maybe there's one county mayor that is pretty anti-union, and he likes to try to kick up dust here and there. But by and large, I mean, all of the community that I've talked to, they've all been adamant that they're right behind us. They want this for us. I mean, this is going to be good for everybody in the entire surrounding area. We get a contract that drives our wages up. Just the fact that contract exists is going to put upward pressure on every other company in the area to drive their wages up too. So it's good for everybody.
Absolutely. And so right now, I'm sure the biggest news in the plant is Volkswagen's recent announcement that they're going to be pursuing a workforce reduction as they shift the schedule from 3 shifts to 2. What was the union's response to that, and how are folks reacting on the shop floor?
Well, they filed charges almost immediately. They ain't having it. They're not okay with that at all. They've been. I mean, this is something that's been coming for a while. The UAW's known about it. Volkswagen all but told our bargainers that they would have done this before the election if they didn't think that it would drive us straight in the arms of the UAW, so they held off. Our bargainers were sitting down and negotiating in good faith with Volkswagen to make sure if in the event that they, and by the way, on more than one occasion, some of the high-ranking Volkswagen officials involved promised Chuck Browning, our lead negotiator, that nobody would lose their jobs over this. And shortly after they made those promises, they disappeared, got sent off to parts unknown. But now all of a sudden, Volkswagen is kind of cheating the system by offering this silly buyout that they're offering. It's unfortunate, but the UAW is not reacting well to this. They filed charges, and we're going to resist.
And folks on the shop floor sound like they're upset about this.
Yeah, most of us. The thing is Volkswagen is throwing around a chunk of money, and some people are going to take it. That's just the nature of the beast. I mean, times are hard right now, right, for everybody. So you can't blame anybody if somebody says, "Here's $30,000, take it or leave it." Some people are going to take it, because that's just this is how we are. But most of us know. Most of us are. We know that if we hold out, if we have faith, that we're going to get this contract, and it's going to be worth a whole lot more than some chump change that Volkswagen is throwing at people right now.
Yeah, a one-time payout. I mean, really, no matter how big it is, unless it's going to be enough for you to live off the rest of your life, right? A one-time payout is not going to be worth, in the end, a career and a union contract with just cause protections, with layoff protections, with higher wages, better health care, better retirement, all that good stuff. And so regarding both of these questions, the ongoing contract negotiations and the recent layoff announcements, which like you said, they're kind of trying to make it go down a little bit easier by, at least for now, who knows what they're going to do in the future, but at least for now they're trying to make the layoffs to the extent that they execute them voluntary, quote unquote, by offering buyouts. But what is the next step for the UAW and the Volunteer Organizing Committee on both the layoff stuff and the ongoing contract negotiations?
Well, as far as the layoff stuff goes, I mean, right now it's a voluntary buyout, so there's not much for us to do other than talk to our fellows and let them know what we think and move on. I mean, if people are going to take it, they're going to take it. If not, they're not. As far as the bargaining process is, we just stay the course. Our bargaining team is doing an excellent job. We are bargaining for an initial first contract, which takes time no matter what. So, I mean, we haven't exceeded an enormous amount of unreasonable time here, so we're still looking good there. But I think for the VOC, we're getting to the point now where it's time to start engaging the community more to try to gin up support from the outside the plant to come and let Volkswagen know that they're on our side, and we're gonna get this contract, and the community wants them to bargain in good faith. And
right. Yeah, absolutely. Well, really excited to hear that. And just as we wrap up, I was kind of surprised when I was on Jed and JR yesterday morning at some of the reaction from some of the listeners. I'm still kind of trying to get an idea, get a feel for the WGOW audience as we're new on the air there. But I was kind of surprised by some of the responses that were a little bit antagonistic. And a big theme of it was basically like, well, they're the company. They should just get to do whatever they want to do. Why should the people who actually build the cars have a say. And so what is your response to people with that attitude, with the attitude that like, well, the company should just kind of be able to do whatever they want and walk over the workers if they feel like that's what they want to do? Why should workers get a say in the place that they work?
Right, sure. Well, because my labor belongs to me. It doesn't belong to the company, right? I'm selling it to them. And just like any of their third-party distributors, they have to negotiate prices because there's fundamentally no difference between the relationship between me and my fellows in Volkswagen and any other partner that it does business with, right? Even Volkswagen itself. I mean, if you break it down in a language, it's more relatable to blue collar folks. Volkswagen makes essentially two piles of money, right? They make a pile of living wage money. They keep their lights on, the doors open, the utilities paid, all their expenses paid. They make that kind of money. But in addition to that, they make a pile of profit. Well, I'm selling my labor to the company, and for that labor, I should get to make enough money to cover my living wage, pay all my bills, my expenses, keep the lights on. But in addition to that, I'm also entitled to make a little bit of profit, right? And individually, I don't have a lot of leverage against the company. So the company's been able to use that to their advantage, so much so that I'm being paid about half of what I'm worth. All of us are, right? So, when the company complains that this contract may double their labor costs, well, that's only because they've been cheating us out of half of what we're owed anyway, right? So, yeah, I should be able to negotiate my worth just like everybody else that Volkswagen does business with. It's no different.
Absolutely. Robert Soderstrom, really appreciate your time. Robert is a Volkswagen employee and a member of the UAW's Volunteer Organizing Committee at the plant there, making in the body shop. Robert, thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for having me. It was good. Thank you.
All right. We're going to take a break, folks, and we will be right back with Boss Watch. The Laborers International Union of North America, LIUNA Local 366, is proudly recruiting North Alabama local workers to work construction and nuclear plant maintenance. If you're interested, please contact April at our training center to start the process at 256-904-1753. No experience is needed. We offer free training, but you must be able to pass a background check and a drug test. Local hiring that grows our community with good-paying jobs that have benefits is our mission. Live better, work union, Local 366, feel the power. The Valley Labor Report is also supported by the Communication Workers of America. Learn more at cwa-union.org.
Support for this program is provided by the International Association for Machinists and Aerospace Workers, Local Lodge 44 in Decatur, Alabama. Learn more at iamaw44.org.
The Valley Labor Report is also sponsored by the United Automobile, Aerospace, and Agricultural Implement Workers of America, better known as the UAW. They are one of the largest and most diverse unions in North America, with members in virtually every sector of the economy. UAW-represented workplaces range from multinational corporations, small manufacturers, and state and local governments, to colleges and universities, hospitals, and private nonprofit organizations. The UAW has more than 400,000 active members and more than 580,000 retired members in the United States, Canada, and Puerto Rico. You can learn more about the UAW and join at uaw.org. The Valley Labor Report is also sponsored by Labor Notes. Labor Notes is a media and organizing project that has been the voice of union activists who want to put the movement back in the labor movement since 1979. You can learn more about Labor Notes at labornotes.org.
The attorneys at Maples, Tucker, and Jacobs have stood with the working people of Alabama for over 40 years, providing skilled legal representation for your workplace injury claims. When you are injured on the job, it can be a scary time. The attorneys at Maples, Tucker, and Jacobs have the experience to guide you through the process to make sure that you and your family are properly taken care of and your rights are protected. If you need help, call the attorneys at Maples, Tucker & Jacobs at 855-617-9333 or visit online at www.mtnj.com. No representation is made that the quality of legal services provided is greater than the quality of legal services provided by other law firms.
Support for this program also comes from the Mid-South Council of Retail, Wholesale, and Department Store Union. Learn more at rwdsu.info.
Union leaders, do you want a powerful website and mobile app built just for your members? The Union Active system, created by Unions America, makes it easy to share news and documents, send alerts, and keep your members engaged anytime, anywhere. Trusted by thousands of unions, Union Active streamlines communication so you can focus on what matters most, your members. With real-time updates, secure messaging, and custom features built for unions, you'll keep your members informed and engaged 24/7. Get Union Active today. Visit unionactive.com to learn more. Union Active, the ultimate website and communication system for unions.
I'll tell how the good old Union has come in here to dwell.
All wealth should go to labor. You are listening to the Valley Labor Report. My name is Jacob Morrison. My co-host is Adam Keller. If you have anything to add, you can give us a call. The phone number is 844-899-TVLR. That is 844-899-8857. We will be taking calls at 11 a.m. Central Time, and I would solicit the people in our YouTube chat to call in. Miguel in YouTube has been, basically for the whole show, just kind of pestering folks. And so, I think you've made your point, Miguel. You don't like unions? Feel free to call in, but I think at this point we'll probably just put you in timeout if you keep harassing folks. Or not. I mean, you're not harassing folks. I don't want to use hyperbolic language, but being annoying. Keep annoying folks. We'll put you in timeout, okay? Okay. Also, Zach in the Facebook chat, you can also call in. Again, the phone number is 844-899-TVLR. That's 844-899-8857. Anybody can call in. We'll take calls at 11 a.m. after we get off of live radio, and where we will continue the program. We've got a whole second half of the show for you. We have an amalgamated transit union president, a local union president out of Baton Rouge, to talk to us about their strike against the capital area transit system in Baton Rouge. We're also going to be talking about ICE trying to deport a legal permanent resident because he doesn't like Israel, and so much more. Be talking about how I ratioed the governor of Oklahoma on Twitter.com. So lots of really exciting stuff in overtime, the second half of the show. So make sure you find us on Facebook and YouTube and hang out with us there. We're going to get to Boss Watch before we wrap up here on the radio. Boss Watch is a segment that we do every single week where we take a look at what bosses are up to in the southern United States. In particular, we've been doing this segment for the last several years by pulling press releases from federal workplace safety and health enforcement agencies like the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, the Mine Safety and Health Administration, the Department of Labor's Wage and Hour Division. But since Trump came into office, they have not been issuing any new press releases, and so there's not been any evidence of enforcement actions or resolution of enforcement actions at any of these agencies. Although we do have a press release from the Mine Safety and Health Administration, not about any new enforcement actions, just repeating some of just the latest state of play as it relates to safety in coal mines. And so this is from the Mine Safety and Health Administration. 10 miners have died between January 3rd and March 5th, 2025, more than triple the number for the same period in 2024. Accidents classified as powered haulage remain the most common, with 4 fatalities, followed by machinery with 2 fatalities, and fall of face, rib, side, or high wall, which is another 2 fatalities. 4 fatalities involved failures of ground or coal rib conditions. 4 fatalities involved improper maintenance or unsafe operation of equipment. 1 fatality involved explosives, and another involved not locking out and tagging out equipment. The Mine Safety and Health Administration asks that you remain vigilant every day at our nation's mines. Fatalities can be prevented by implementing effective safety and health programs. Important elements in any safety and health program include workplace examinations, hazard recognition, and avoidance and training. To prevent serious and fatal accidents, everyone in the mining industry needs to be alert for hazards. MSHA is urging the mining community to focus on identifying and eliminating safety and health hazards. When we work together, we can succeed in improving safety and health for miners. Now, I am honestly surprised that they were able to put this release out, but this tracks from what I'm hearing from folks. Employers right now feel empowered and emboldened in this environment to do whatever they want, to not continue with safety programs, to not ensure that equipment remains safe, to not ensure healthy working conditions, because they don't feel like anymore anybody is going to stop them. For the record, there were 28 minor fatalities in the entire 2024 calendar year. We are already up to 10 in 2025. We have an update on Elon Musk's OSHA-issued citation of about $50,000 in late January. You'll remember that was made public last week. And if you check out the newsletter, you'll get a reminder about the specific charges, but Elon Musk is appealing those charges, and Jordan Barab has a piece on his newsletter, Confined Space. You can Google Confined Space newsletter about Elon Musk's history with OSHA that we highly recommend you read. We're going to wrap up with Union Busters. This segment of Boss Watch, covering national updates, is sponsored by Labor Lab. Labor Lab is an employer watchdog organization. They are committed to safeguarding the right to organize through unions, collective bargaining, and mutual aid. They do this by combing through reports that union busters are required to file with the Department of Labor. Here are the new LM20s that were filed last week. AG Equipment Company in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, hired LRI Consulting Services for $425 an hour. LabCorp, Georgia, in Tucker, Georgia, hired East Coast Labor Relations, where Joe Brock is, for $3,500 per day. We also got a note from Labor Lab about Joe Brock and East Coast Labor Relations. He did not include any payment information from employers or to subcontractors for his LM21 for 2024. Overall, Labor Lab says that his reporting rate is shoddy over the years, although he did report this information in 2023. We'll be filing a complaint, Labor Lab says, and releasing a report on this in early April when LM21s are due for most persuader firms. But, that's interesting. Getting paid millions of dollars to union bust and you can't even file the right forms. Crazy. Cisco Guest Supply in Corona, California, hired Action Resources for $3,700 a day. Blick Art Supplies in Galesburg, Illinois, hired Greer Consulting. Workers lost that union election. American Craft Brewery and Samuel Adams, Pennsylvania Brewery in Brennigsville, Pennsylvania, hired American Labor Relations Group for $385 an hour. People Solution Consultants filed an LM20 and listed LRI Consulting Services instead of the employer. So again, union busters not filing the paperwork correctly. And finally, a couple of LM20s were amended at Quality Labor Solutions. They included their compensation rate of $200 an hour, as did Flores Labor Relations, amended their LM20 to include their compensation rate of $212 an hour. That is it for our updates this week, and that wraps up our show. Find us online, Facebook, and YouTube to continue the program. Otherwise, we will see you next week. All right, we're off the radio now. Cut it a little bit close, but I think we're good. Yeah, got to get better about that timing. That's on me. I'm not talking to anybody else except myself there. Sorry about that. Before we take our break, just while we're here, Adam, were there any plugs that you wanted to make sure that we got to?
Yeah, real quick, I did want to mention there's some stuff happening, locally and regionally as well as online. So for Alabamians, just a heads up, next week is a big week in the legislature. Lots going on, as we mentioned at the top of the show with taxes. Alabama AFL-CIO will have their legislative days as well as the Roadkill Barbecue next week. And so the barbecue is on the 19th. It's a great opportunity to network with other union members from across the state. Often elected officials are there, other folks. So that's on March 19th in Montgomery. The very next day, March 20th, is Alabama Rise Legislative Day. Hopefully you already registered, but hope to see some folks there. Always a good crowd, a good diverse crowd of people advocating for, the least of these in the state. So a good opportunity. So the 19th and 20th in Montgomery. On the 23rd, Sunday the 23rd, North Alabama Area Labor Council is partnering with the Huntsville-Madison County Historical Society to screen the film Norma Ray. It is Women's History Month, after all, and we've been wanting to do a film screening. Really excited about this partnership. It is, again, Sunday, March 23rd. We will start the event at 1 o'clock at Interspace Brewing in Huntsville. So those of you who are local, would love to see y'all come on out. It's a great opportunity to mix and mingle, but also to learn a little bit about labor and enjoy one of the best movies of the labor movement. So excited about that. And I did want to mention Labor Notes has some great opportunities coming up. They're actually starting their race and labor training series today. It's a 3-part workshop. So hopefully if you were interested, you're already looped into that. On March 17th, Labor Notes has a national call on federal workers organizing. So I know that's something we're covering heavily on this show. A lot of federal workers who listen to the program. Again, that's March 17th at 7 o'clock Central, online with Labor Notes. The very next day, on the 18th at 6:30 p.m. Central, they have a K-12 educators workshop on organizing to protect immigrant rights and public education. Later in the month, March 31st, is the Stewards Workshop investigating grievances, which I know will be helpful for folks. And I saw on their website that New Orleans has a troublemaker school scheduled May 31st. So a little bit of ways out, but really excited to see a troublemaker school in New Orleans. We've been proud to have worked on the last 2 that were held here in Alabama. They were a great time. So best of luck to the New Orleans folks. Hope that goes well. Shout out WHIV in New Orleans, which airs this program.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we're going to take our break now. I don't see any of our trolls in the chat on the line, which is a bummer. I don't see anybody on the lines right now. 844-899-TVLR, 844-899-8857 if anybody wants to call in. But, a lot of times these people kind of are, they don't like to have their ideas challenged and stuff like that. So, Miguel, Zach, you're welcome to call in, 844-899-8857. We're going to take a break now, and we'll go right into overtime.
Come on, you poor workers, good news to you I'll tell. How the good old union has come in here to dwell.
Welcome back. This is Overtime, a production of the Valley Labor Report, the largest union talk radio and online news outfit in the South, coming to you from the heart of the Tennessee Valley in the Spice Radio Studios in Huntsville, Alabama. We are run by working people and for working people in the South and all over the country. My name is Jacob Morrison. My co-host is Adam Keller. We appreciate you spending some time with us. If you'd like to call in, the phone number is 844-899-TVLR. That's 844-899-8857. We've got some 50, 60 people watching us on YouTube. 40 people have liked the stream so far, so go ahead and like the stream if you haven't yet. And yeah, we've got, would love to hear some of the folks who are been hanging out in our chat to call in. We do have a caller. I don't think this is the people trolling around in our chat, which is a bummer, but we'll go ahead and take this call. 508 area code. Caller from a 508 area code. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Jacob. This is Greg from up outside of Boston. Unfortunately, I'm not one of the trolls in the chat. I think they gotta. Sometimes the red hat gets pulled a little tight, and they gotta loosen the straps in the back.
That's right. You got to get some oxygen up there. It's dangerous if you don't have oxygen. So, Greg from just outside of Boston, what's on your mind?
So I think you had mentioned it earlier in one of your notes about the Postmaster DeJoy. I'm a letter carrier, by the way. Postmaster DeJoy letting Doge in the building. And I just wanted to say a little bit about that and possibly promote a rally that the NALC is having next Sunday. So he did let Musk and his cronies in the building. They kind of took the approach, from what we've heard, of use the scalpel, not the chainsaw approach. That 10,000, the 10,000 employees that it made it look like it will be laid off. That was a deal that was already in place. It was mostly clerks and mail handlers. It was almost like an early out offer, and a lot of them have taken that. So that was kind of before Musk got involved. But the union would like them. I don't think we mind them coming in because the waste in the post office is outside of the unions. It's misallocated money since 2006. There's a thing called the Siegel study, if you look into it, where we are owed billions of dollars that just have seemed to have gone missing in the late 2000s, early 2010s. So I think we'll welcome it. We're a little nervous about our contract still being up in the air. The arbitration starts this Monday, but that should make us a little nervous. But the post office needs to be looked at, but it certainly doesn't need to be looked at the carrier level, or the clerk, or the mail handlers level, the rural level. They are very top heavy. The top 200 people at the post office don't touch a piece of mail, so maybe that's something they can look at. But I think so. I just wanted to promote something that the union is doing. Sunday, March 23rd. All over the country, we're doing a rally. It started as a contract rally, but it's an anti-privatization rally. I would check your local union to see where it is. It is on the NALC website if you want to look. It's Sunday the 23rd, and we're just gonna basically say that the post office isn't for sale. I think some rallies will mention the contract, but I just wanted to tell people. And you have a lot of carriers that listen. I don't know if you realize that ever since your Renfro interview, there's a lot of carriers that listen to your show. And, I would encourage anybody listening to find out where your local rally is and attend it. We have a lot of older carriers that will say, oh, I've been hearing this place is being privatized for 20 years. But there's always been a threat, but that threat came with a fight. So I think I think you would probably agree. You would encourage, especially younger union people, to get involved now rather than later or watch it go away. So
Absolutely, Greg. I really appreciate your call and totally endorse what you're saying. Folks should definitely get involved in their local union. They should find out where the nearest rally is. I think there is one in Alabama in Montgomery on the 23rd. I think that's the only one in Alabama. So if you are in or near Alabama or in or near Montgomery on the 23rd, you should definitely check that out. There's going to be a rally there at the Capitol. And just generally get involved in your union. And it's really important what you said about like, oh, well, there's always been talk about it, but it's never happened. And you're exactly right that in part it hasn't happened because people like the postal unions and people who are served by the Postal Service fought it. If there are people who have been in power who would have privatized it if they could have. And so like it's not like it just happened that the Postal Service is not private. It's not private because people have fought it, and you have to continue to fight it or they will win, right? And so I really appreciate that point, Greg.
Jacob, and it's not, we're not just encouraging carriers to attend. This affects more than just city letter carriers or rural letter carriers. It affects the whole country in general. Yeah. The biggest thing the post office does, and you might hear people say, oh, you just put letters in a box and we don't need the post office. I can go a week without mail. But what they do is us just being around keeps FedEx and UPS and Amazon from price gouging. Mm-hmm. And the first thing that they will do if the post office ever went away was watch that price go up. So the public should get involved. Senior citizens should get involved. Any small business that does pickups, anybody. This affects passport people. This affects everybody. So at least at the Boston one, we have other unions coming, someone from the passport, someone from the Massachusetts Department of Senior Citizens is coming to speak. So I would encourage anybody listening, even if you're not involved with the post office, this will affect you in some way. So thank you for the time.
Yeah, Greg, thank you so much for the call. I really appreciate it. And that gives me a good opportunity and if anybody else wants to get where Greg was, the phone number is 844-899-TVLR. That's 844-899-8857. That gives me an opportunity to take a look at some of this stuff that the postal unions have put out about Doge being in there. And look, like Greg was saying, there's nobody is actually opposed to efficiency, right? Nobody is actually opposed to efficiency, and there are people in all government agencies, including very, very much including within the labor movement and among the rank and file of the labor movement in the federal workforce, the leadership of the federal labor unions. There are people at all levels who would support genuine attempts to make things more efficient, including like at the Postal Service, where, as we've heard, carriers call in time after time after time talking to us about how the Postal Service is so top heavy. There's a bunch of people who don't even touch the mail. The number that I've heard over and over, it was something like there used to be one carrier for every 24 or 42 managers, and now there's 1 to 7, right? And so like when you start getting more and more management, more and more administrators, and less people actually doing the work, right? There's, I'm sure, opportunities for efficiency, but this Doge stuff is not being done in good faith. And so this is my view. It's not being done in good faith, right? They do not actually want to make government better. They want to destroy the government. They want to make people, their friends, richer, and folks like us poorer. Here are the statements from the NALC and the APWU on DeJoy's agreement with Doge. Renfro said, The NALC is aware of the agreement between the Postal Service, GSA, and DOJ to assist with identifying and achieving certain efficiencies. We remain in contact with the Postal Service regarding DOJ's efforts at USPS and any potential impact on NALC. The safety of our members always comes first. That includes their information and data. Prior to DOJ's engagement with the Postal Service, we prepared for potential legal action if DOJ was to gain access to our members' information and USPS records in violation of any applicable laws and regulations. We also expressed our concern over the privacy of our members' information to the Postal Service leadership. Our understanding of the agreement between the Postal Service and DOJ is that it does not grant such access. That's a really important win. We commend the Postal Service leadership for protecting employee information. Still, we continue to closely monitor the situation and will fight like hell against any attack on the rights and privacy of NALC members. In a letter to congressional leaders today, Postmaster General DeJoy laid out some of the big problems DOJ could assist with. Some of these are issues we've been actively engaged in and advocating for years. These include the Postal Service's misallocated pension liabilities, which has cost the agency tens of billions of dollars, and a new investment strategy for the Postal Service's three retirement funds, a new investment strategy for the Postal Service's 3 retirement funds, which are currently held in treasury bonds, missing out on hundreds of millions of dollars in annual returns. These policy changes are needed to improve the Postal Service's financial viability, and we welcome anyone's help who can influence Congress and the administration to finally enact them. As DOJ attempts to tackle these or any other issues at the Postal Service, it is important that they know what our members do and who they are. Letter carriers are lifelines to American communities who uphold our constitutionally mandated service obligation by delivering to 169 million delivery points, including 51.5 million rural households and businesses, 6 and sometimes 7 days a week. 5 years ago, during a global pandemic, when most businesses shut down, letter carriers did not take one day off. We did not work from home. Instead, we delivered every single day, just as we have for 250 years. If DOJ wants to improve the Postal Service's finances, the above actions will do just that. Misguided ideas like privatization will not. Common sense solutions are what the Postal Service needs, not privatization efforts that will threaten 640,000 postal employees' jobs, 7.9 million jobs tied to our work, and the universal service every American relies on every day. The APWU also put out a statement, theirs much shorter, saying members likely heard the recent news of an agreement between the Postmaster General and the DOJ, headed by the unelected billionaire Elon Musk, and not established by Congress. It is no surprise that DOJ has set its sights on the People's Postal Service. It is not clear exactly what the agreement spells out, but the Postmaster General's letter to congressional leaders gave management's perspective. The APWU position is clear. There is no legitimate role for DOJ in the USPS or any other federal agency. The Public Postal Service was created by Congress as an independent government agency with robust oversight from the Office of Inspector General, the Postal Regulatory Commission, and the Board of Governors, as well as congressional committees. The National Executive Board, in a meeting on March 14th, discussed the developments and confirmed that the union remains on full alert and will continue to monitor the situation. The moment there is any indication that DOJ is seeking to access the personal and private information regarding employees, the APWU is prepared to take immediate legal action. Our collective bargaining agreement is between the APWU and the Postal Service. Any effort by DOJ or any other entity to weaken our union rights or target our contractual protections and working conditions will be met with immediate and sustained resistance by postal workers. Again, that is a statement from the American Postal Workers Union, APWU, the president of which is Mark Dimenstein. We have another caller on the line, but we're going to have to get to our guest first. We already had this guest lined up, so it'll be about a 15-minute call, so if you want to hang on the line, you can do that. I do see you, and we will get to you, but we do have a guest lined up, so we need to get to them. Respect their time. George Duquesne, and you can correct me if I'm pronouncing that wrong, is the president and business agent of the Amalgamated Transit Union, ATU Local 1546, out of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. George, welcome to the Valley Labor Report.
Thank you for having me. The pronunciation is Duquesne, but it always gets butchered. But thank you for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. I will get that right next time we have you on the show. Hope we're able to have you on several times into the future. We have you on today because there was a really exciting development out of Baton Rouge. Your members went on strike for 6 days, and you were able to get management to withdraw the illegal imposition of a contract on your members. That's obviously a very exciting thing. We're going to talk about that, but first, can you let our listeners know who your members are and what they do?
Certainly. So the members of the ATU Local 1546 represent the bus drivers at Capital Area Transit System, the custodian staff, and the maintenance staff, which consists of utility techs that's responsible for washing the in and outside of the bus, the various levels of mechanics that's for the servicings of the bus, our vault puller, which pulls our vault from the monies that's collected throughout the day. All of those individuals are represented by Amalgamated Transit Union Local 1546.
Gotcha. And I'm sure that, the community really relies on this kind of stuff on transit to get around, right? I mean, what is the relationship between your union and the community?
We move the city. We are the lifeline of the city. The demographics, particularly in the South in general, are below the federal standards. So pretty much our ridership relies on us to get to and from dialysis, medical appointments. They rely on us to get to work, school. They rely on us to do various activities throughout the day, make groceries, everyday needs that people actually have to do within their daily life. I'm sorry, I'm multitasking right now, but tasks people have to do within their daily lives. So anything any one individual with a car would do, they would have to do the same thing with public transit, with the caveat that sometimes they have to walk a little bit further.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. It's really important work, the work that you and your members do, and I'm sure the community appreciates it, and I appreciate it. I really appreciate y'all's service to the community. And so y'all work for the Capital Area Transit System in Baton Rouge. And like I said, management tried to impose an offer on your members that your members did not accept. What was in that contract offer that they tried to impose, and why was it unacceptable?
It was unacceptable because we were collectively at the table, the negotiations table, negotiating. And within the midst of that, we went to mediation. Mediation did not work out well. So the company decided to impose an illegal collective bargaining agreement on us, or practice, as I should call it, whereas they specifically stated in the letter whether we had a TA on it during negotiations or we rejected it, they were going to impose it. And if we didn't take a stand and put a stop to that right then and there, we know many of our other privileges that we've had through collective bargaining was on the chopping block, such as our pension, our health and welfare, our benefits card we get through the health and welfare plan. All of those are collective bargaining components that the union actually fought for the workers. So little things are scheduling, having weekends off. So we knew all that would potentially be on the chopping block if we didn't take a stand and fight against that.
Right. And so y'all did go on strike. You struck for 6 days. Somebody in the chat, Gus, says that More Perfect Union had a nice video segment about the Baton Rouge bus strike and how the timing around Carnival was really great. So there was a strategic value to even the time that you went on strike. Talk to us about, the strike and how your members, what that did for maybe the confidence of your members and how the community reacted.
Yes, certainly. So regarding that is during Carnival time is what we generally pride ourselves on in Louisiana. It's about coming together, celebrating different adversities. Every demographic, all walks of life come together during Carnival time. We share food, we share king cake and things of that sort. And we felt that the company was not being very brotherly or sisterly with us in that retrospect, especially during the time that we're supposed to be coming together by implementing that contract. So it did happen to fall in our favor that they imposed it around carnival time that allowed us to partake in that strike. But we had a lot of dedicated members who actually were on the front line, and that's how we celebrated our Mardi Gras. As our brother just mentioned in the chat, we had the short video that came out. You could see various members standing on the line, decked out in their Mardi Gras gear. That's how we celebrated our Mardi Gras. We had our own parade. It was called the Strike Line.
Right. Yeah, that's that's really, really cool. And I hate that, I'm obviously not able to be out there in Baton Rouge. It's a bit of a drive, but maybe I'll be in town sometime and I can run by your office and get you something to get you a drink or something. And so, your members are back at work now after management rescinded their imposition of the contract, and you're heading to arbitration. Was that the goal of the strike, was to bring you to arbitration, or was it just generally remove the imposition? And like, what were the terms of the strike that you told management will go back to work? And is this what you were looking for?
I will say this: having a degree or various degrees does not make you very intelligent or smart, because dealing with the managers that we've had, it's astounding that they make some of the simplest minded moves that in theory are illegal. We got everyone back to work. We ensured that before we went back that we had protected our strike line actually included no retaliations for anyone going on the strike line. But they don't, the agencies fail to realize that some of the things that they're implementing does not only hurt the workforce, actually hurts them in return. Without your workforce, you're cool. And we had to show them that.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. It's really important and really glad that y'all were able to do that. You're breaking up a little bit. Your connection may not be the best. If you maybe it would be best if you came off video, and then that way all the like internet strength can go to getting the audio through to us. Sorry about that. But during the strike, I'm curious about what the response was from the community. You said that you kind of had your own little parade on the picket line. How was the community really supportive and like coming out on the picket line and walking the line with you, or what was the response?
Yes. The community there were various news syndicates that did interviews with the traveling public. They received the strike line very well. They understood why we were out there and supported it wholeheartedly. They stated that we are the lifeline. We wake up every morning and out there till very late. And some of the adversities that we deal with on a daily basis. So they understood the need for it and why we were out there, and they urged the company to actually resolve this. So the various daily tasks that they have to do within their life is not obstructed. So they sided with us. They came on the strike line. We had a lot of community allies and advocates that was out there with us. The Sierra Club Delta chapter, Step Up Louisiana, the NAACP Louisiana, even public officials that we supported through our PAC, which is the ATU co-program. They came out. Congressman Cleo Fields for Louisiana, who was recently just elected to the 6th Congressional District in Louisiana, came stood on the strike line. C. Denise Marcel, state representative that's endorsed by AT 1546, came and stood on the strike line with us. The international president of Amalgamated Transit Union detoured his travel plans from California back to DC to come to Baton Rouge to stop over to stand with us on the strike lines. So we did have a lot of advocates. If I missed anyone, I'm sorry. Baton Rouge DSA and Louisiana Socialism for Liberations stood out there with us as well and contributed to the strike line. And if I missed anyone else, I apologize. AFL-CIO, Ironworkers of America, was out there as well.
That's really great to hear. I'm incredibly heartened to hear about all the support that y'all received from the community. That's really exciting. And so what are the next steps? Y'all are heading into arbitration. Do you have any sort of timeline for that? And what is arbitration going to look like for y'all?
Yes, so we are headed to interest arbitration. That was one of the stipulations that we knew that we thought we were going into after the field mediation. We thought we were going to impasse to interest arbitration. But the company decided to impose in that process an illegal contract. We are prepared for interest arbitration. We've already selected our arbitrator on the union side. The company has selected their arbitrator. The next step is securing the third and neutral arbitrator and getting dates and moving forward.
All right. Well, I'm glad to hear that. When we were talking on the line off the air the other day to prepare for the call, you mentioned that you had some organizing campaigns in the work. You would care to tell us about those before we let you go?
Sure. So recently, right now, we have a large school bus organizing campaign we're pushing here in the South. We recently won 2 large properties with First Student out in Central Louisiana and Zachary, Louisiana. I'm very fortunate that the ATU organizing department seen the need to organize the South, and we're leading the charge within the state of Louisiana here in Baton Rouge. I have a great mentor here from the organizing department by the name of Stanley Smalls. He's from the ATU organizing and campaigns department. The director of that department, Justin Panos, has been very gracious with actually sending any and all resources and needs we need down here for these different properties, with supporting literature, doing coffee and donuts, anything of that sort. We try to reach the people to get them to understand that getting organized is not saying that you're against the employer, but you're taking an interest in yourself and giving yourself a seat at the table.
Exactly. Well, George, really appreciate your time. Enjoyed it. Looking forward to keeping in touch. Let us know how these things go. Let us know once you get your contract arbitrations wrapped up. Would love to be able to have you back on to talk about that. And once you win, once folks win their union with ATU Local 1546, love to hear from them too. So thank you for your time, George, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it. You all have a good day and keep the fight strong.
Absolutely. All right, folks. There you go. Just talked to George Duquesne, president of the Amalgamated Transit Union Local 1546 out of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. We do have a caller on the line. We got a caller on the line. The phone number is 844-899-TVLR. That's 844-899-8857 if you want to get where this caller is. Caller from a 309 area code. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hi, my name is Donovan Malmo. I'm from Utah. I'm a letter carrier.
Donovan from Utah. What's on your mind?
So I just wanted to kind of push back against what one of my fellow brothers were talking about with Doge coming in. We all agree, yes, that there should be some efficiency in management. But with Elon Musk coming out and saying that post office should be privatized, I don't think there's a good faith argument to allow Doge into the post office.
Mm-hmm.
We have, $300 billion overpaid into our pension funds, and probably well over that amount in property value. These people are only interested in privatization of the post office so they can get their hands on that money. They want that money. Right. So I don't think there's a good faith argument for us to even allow Doge in, and we should be fighting back against that.
All right. Donovan, appreciate your call. Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. I think that Greg was. I don't think necessarily even that Greg would disagree with you. Although he can let us know in the YouTube chat what he thinks of your call. It seemed like he was skeptical, but wanted to try to be as charitable about these sorts of things as he could. But yeah, I think I'm generally inclined to agree that just the presence of Doge, because they have already shown themselves to be a bad faith actor, right? And so I do think that that you potentially create some there's some danger to maybe treating them as if they're acting in good faith, treating them charitably and their arguments charitably, because they are not coming at these things in good faith. But I can appreciate people wanting to maintain that I support efficiency, and however people feel about or whatever somebody is doing under the name of efficiency, I can disagree or agree with it, but I do genuinely support efficiency, and I can understand how that's kind of the attitude that somebody would want to take. So, Donovan from Utah, appreciate your call. 844-899-TVLR is the phone number if you want to get where Donovan was. Let's see. Trying to think about what I want to get to now. Let's do this. Let's take a look at this Mahmoud Khalil thing. Mahmoud was a student at Columbia University who was a participator in who participated in some of the pro-Palestine protests, and he has been arrested, and they're trying to deport him. And importantly, there's been a lot of people saying a lot of things about what happened or didn't happen at Columbia. The government, to this day, and the arrest happened a number of days ago, to this day, is still not accusing Khalil of a crime. They are not pointing to a specific statute that they claim he has broken. They're not doing that. They're not saying they have identified him as a leader, and they're saying that they're going to deport him. In fact, let me find this this quote from the Deputy Secretary of Homeland Security. He is asked how Khalil supported Hamas, because that's a bunch of the stuff that they're saying. They're saying, oh, he supported Hamas, he supported terrorism, blah blah blah. In an interview with NPR, the Deputy Secretary of Homeland Security was asked, how did he support Hamas? Exactly what did he do? He said, quote, well, I think you can see it on TV, right? This is somebody that we've invited and allowed the student to come into the country, and now, importantly, not on a student visa, a green card holder, married to a U.S. citizen, which should entitle you to First Amendment protections. This is somebody that we've invited and allowed the student to come into the country, and he's put himself in the middle of the process of basically pro-Palestinian activities. And at this point, like I said, the Secretary of State can review his visa process at any point and revoke it. That is a direct quote. He's put himself in the middle of the process of basically pro-Palestinian activities. Not pro-Hamas, not pro-terrorist, pro-Palestinian. And we're seeing this with Trump literally using Palestinian as a slur, saying Chuck Schumer is basically a Palestinian now, as if the receiver, as if the listener, the viewer of him, when he's saying that, is supposed to say, oh, Chuck Schumer is a Palestinian now. That means he's bad. Right? This should be, if you actually care about free speech, I have always cared about free speech. I have always been a supporter of free speech. I don't, this is not a political talk show, and so we don't talk about politics a lot. But, I have had conversations where people have been upset with me about where, during some of the protests again, or some of the attempts to get speakers canceled from universities. I've never thought that was wise or good, or a good kind of inclination to have, just generally speaking. And people have been upset with me about that, and it's fine, and people can disagree. But the people who were saying, I have a right to, to make millions of dollars and to speak on college campuses and all of this kind of stuff, they positioned it as if it was a principled pro-free speech sort of thing. And now all of these people, almost all of these people, importantly not all of them, but almost all of these people, including Ben Shapiro, are supporting this, supporting the deportation of a U.S. green card holder married to an American citizen because of his speech. It's just so gross. Former member of the UAW grad student union, and we'll read from the UAW's statements about this momentarily, but let's just play because it's important for people to actually see, I think, some of the inhumanity with that folks are being treated with, and the reaction that people have in these situations. So let's play the video of Mahmoud Khalil being arrested by ICE. Although they did not identify themselves as ICE, they did not give their names. You'll see it in the video. Let's play this.
Gonna be under arrest. So turn around.
Okay,
Stop
let's
resisting.
not.
Stop resisting.
Okay, he's not resisting. He's giving me his phone. Okay, he's not. I understand. He's not resisting.
Put your arm down.
There's no need for this.
Don't worry about it. You're gonna have to come with us. Don't worry.
I'm coming with you. Don't worry.
No one's resisting. No one's getting worked up.
You guys really don't need to be doing all of that.
It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Come on.
حبيبي كيف بدي اتصل فيك؟
Take Amy. Call Amy. She will be
Okay.
fine.
Hi, Amy. Yeah, they just handcuffed him and took him. I don't know what to do. Okay. And what should I do? I don't know. Nor. Let me ask. Can we get a name, please? Can we get your name? I understand the lawyer is asking for your name.
Go over there. No, we don't give our names.
The lawyer's asking for your name. He's saying they don't give their names.
Oh yeah, that's right. They'll be taken to immigration custody at 26 Federal Plaza.
I'm sorry. Can you repeat that?
They'll be taken to immigration custody at 26 Federal Plaza.
She said they're taking him to 26 Federal Plaza. Can you please specify what agency is taking him, please? Excuse me. They're not talking to me. I don't know. I don't know. Excuse me. The lawyer would like to speak to somebody. Oh my God, they're literally running away from me.
I mean, it's really, really, really gross seeing that happen. I think that we are really seeing a degradation of what the protections of the First Amendment mean in this country. I mean, this also comes, obviously this is like less important at, it's a more serious matter to be deported or to attempt, that they are attempting to deport this person than it is to be fired from a job. But, this comes the week after Texas Governor Greg Abbott celebrated the firing of a state employee in the Real Estate Commission for having pronouns in his email signature, despite the fact that the employee received glowing performance reviews and was an essential member of the division, according to his supervisor. Being fired by the state, and this was not even a transgender person, this was a cisgender born as a man, assigned male at birth man, who just had that identified in his email signature. And he was fired for that. And this person has been deported, or they are trying to deport him. They have not succeeded yet. And there are legal cases going through right now, and we'll see what happens. But I mean, genuinely, like, this is scary, right? If they can do this, and it's also important to know that the wife did not know where her husband was, where the father of her child, she is 8 months pregnant. She did not know where he was for like 48 hours. They just disappeared him. They said they were taking him to this 26 Federal Plaza, but then they took him to somewhere else. Then they took him to Louisiana without telling anybody. The AFL-CIO put out a statement about it. They said, as a labor movement with a long history of being targeted by the government for repression in response to peaceful protest, we once again affirm our commitment to due process and the rule of law. The arrest, detention, and attempt to deport Mahmoud Khalil, a legal permanent resident of the United States, sends a troubling message to all working people. We stand against every kind of hate, including anti-Semitism, and against every form of politics that seeks to divide working people. The actions taken against Khalil undermine the rule of law. Whether you agree or disagree with Khalil and other young people who protested on college campuses, there shouldn't be any debate over Khalil's right to be informed of the charges against him. No charges. There have been no charges right now. And the idea that the federal government should be getting involved at all is absurd, right? This is a matter, even, like they say, I mean, I think there's a certain level of problematic to even kind of giving into the idea about whether you agree with him or not, because that just so doesn't matter. But, nevertheless, whether you agree with the protests or not, or you had problems with this, that, or the other thing, that is not a matter for federal law enforcement agencies to be getting involved with. That is a matter for the university, and if the university wants, they can do something. They whatever, right? And we can debate what the university does on its merits. But the idea that there's any role for federal law enforcement here is absurd. Again, no charges for this person. No charges. The SEIU also had a statement from the president, April Verrett, president of the Service Employees International Union. Quote, abducting and detaining Mahmoud Khalil is an outrageous assault on free speech, due process, and immigrant communities. Mahmoud is a student, husband, and soon-to-be father legally residing in the U.S. By arresting and detaining him without due process, the Department of Homeland Security is sending a chilling message. Anyone who disagrees with the Trump administration's views is a target. This blatantly unconstitutional tactic is ripped straight from a well-worn authoritarian playbook designed to spread and silence movements for justice. We demand the administration release Mahmoud Khalil immediately. At the same time, higher education institutions must implement strong policies to protect workers and students, ensuring their right to peacefully protest, join a union, and uphold First Amendment rights. This administration's pattern of using immigrants as political scapegoats to distract from their billionaires' agenda is clear. Administration officials have lied time and time again, claiming to prioritize enforcement action against individuals who pose a threat to our communities. In reality, they've gone after students, separated families, and arrested scores of immigrant workers with no criminal record. This assault against Mahmoud Khalil is an attack on all of us who value democracy and freedom. We will fight against the administration's divisive, cruel policies and continue to demand equal justice for all immigrants and citizens. Our economy, our communities, and our shared future depend on it. And this isn't the only assault on free speech at Columbia, because Columbia has also fired the president of the Graduate Student Workers Union, UAW Local 2710. Also, it's worth noting, a Jewish person, right? Ostensibly for, all the anti-Semitism protests, right? All these protests that they just hate Jews. The president of the Graduate Student Union at Columbia is Jewish and has now been expelled and fired for his participation in these protests. This from the UAW. In the latest assault on First Amendment rights, Columbia University has expelled and fired Grant Minor, president of UAW Local 2710, which represents thousands of Columbia student workers. The firing comes one day before contract negotiations were set to open with the university. The university also, I don't think they mentioned this because this was a press release from a couple of days ago, university also did not attend the first bargaining session. They stood up the union. They didn't show. Continuing on with this press release, the shocking move is part of a wave of crackdowns on free speech against students and workers who have spoken out and protested for peace and against the war on Gaza. As the UAW has emphasized, the assault on First Amendment rights being jointly committed by the federal government and Columbia University are an attack on all workers who dare to protest, speak out, or exercise their freedom of association under the U.S. Constitution. It is no accident that this comes days after the federal government froze Columbia's funding and threatened to pull funding from 60 other universities across the country. It is no accident that this firing has occurred the day before contract negotiations begin. It is no accident that the university is targeting a union leader whose local went on strike in the last round of bargaining. It is no accident that this is happening at Columbia University, where student workers won back the right to collective bargaining in 2016. Trade unionists everywhere, defenders of the Constitution, of freedom of speech, of academic freedom, and the right of free association should be appalled and disgusted by the behavior of Columbia University and should take it for the clear signal it is. If they can come for graduate workers, if they can arrest, deport, expel, or imprison union leaders and activists for their protected political speech, then they can come for you, for your contract, for your paycheck, for your family, and for your rights. UAW Local 2710 is mobilizing a response and calls on all allies of the working class and Americans of good conscience to speak out and stand up against this gross injustice. It's really, genuinely concerning stuff happening. But we do have a concerning story still, but a little bit, a little bit less concerning, and it's also got a bit of a funny thing to it. There's a video going viral on TikTok and social media of a Alabama roofer who outlasted ICE and was able to get around deportation by just not coming down. And so here's a little clip of conversations between the person videoing, the undocumented immigrant on the roof, and the ICE agents down on the ground.
¿Cómo? Venga, venga por mí, suba. Venga por mí. Estamos a la misma distancia. ¿Usted cree que es más ellos? No, papá, mire, ve. No. ¿Usted cree que me van a mandar para mi país? No.
So there you go. It looked like they were having a little bit of fun there. And obviously still like, a scary situation. I sent out a call on Twitter for folks to, asking if anybody had seen any reporting on this, because I was hesitant to play this clip. I didn't know if it was old. I didn't know exactly what was going on. And so I asked on Twitter, I was like, can anybody verify the validity and the truth of this? I'm not seeing any reporting. I'm literally just seeing videos online. And a reporter did reach out to me and said that the video with the worker outlasting ICE happened in Baldwin County in Alabama. But I haven't found the specific place. So hopefully we'll be able to see a story out on this soon because there are reporters looking into it seems like. But what this reporter told me that they're hearing is that ICE is just going to a bunch of construction sites in the county, and instead of having specific people in mind, they're just targeting workers who look Hispanic. That's based on what an advocate told me. And so, look, we are being told that the Trump administration is targeting violent criminals, and that is what our tax dollars are being used for, to keep Americans safe. That is the first priority of the Trump administration's deportation agenda, ostensibly, is that first we want to go after the criminals. Well, I've just shown you two stories of people who objectively, Mahmoud Khalil was not hurting anybody, and there was no danger of him hurting anybody. The 10 people who were arrested at this Alabama construction site, no evidence. Because they weren't going for particular people. They were just looking for people who looked Hispanic. And so, a bunch of people were on the roof, and they all like got on the ground and ran away, and they were all caught. But this other guy, he just stayed on the roof, and he stayed up there for 6 hours, according to the videos that are going around online, until ICE just left. And so he was able to get away, and he was able to, and somebody else said that there was a video saying that when they asked why he did that, he said that he, had to get home to his daughter. And so, if they were going to arrest him and deport him, then they could do that, but they'd have to put in a little bit of work, right? Just a little bit of work. And so that is funny that they were not willing to put in a little bit of work and get on and get on a roof, which this guy has to do for his job every single day. And so presumably it was like a safety thing. Like they were like scared of getting on the roof or something like that because they didn't want to be unsafe. And so, that's a little bit of irony too, that these, big scary cops in their bulletproof vests weren't willing to get on a roof to put handcuffs on a guy. Just really like, it's just so, it's so gross. And so, happy for this guy that he was able to get away. Hopefully he stays safe. And, I thought we were going after the criminals at least first. Right? At least first. That's what they were telling. And I do not think that they had been able to get rid of all the criminals in 30 days. I just don't think that's happened yet. But they're already moving on to people who are just working on roofs, people who protested Israel, not making us safe. So there you go. Adam, I don't
Jacob,
know
yeah. I just wanted to chime in to say I had heard similar things to the reporter in terms of what's happening in Baldwin County. It's hard to say what kind of numbers are being collected. I don't have that information, but I have heard rumors from folks in the community that Baldwin County Sheriff's Department has been doing this has been very cooperative with ICE, and therefore ICE has been more of a threat in Baldwin County. It is, to your point, I mean, this guy was just working, right? He was just doing his job. He was selling his labor to make a living, to provide for his family. And, so I commend him for his bravery and for persistence. Because I couldn't imagine being in that scenario and realizing that you may not get to go home to your family and not know when you could see them again. I understand that we all are concerned about our safety. Everyone wants to be in a safe community, a safe neighborhood. But to think that folks are posing a danger to you simply because of their paperwork or because of where they were born or the language that they speak is just absurd. And it plays into the divide and conquer tactics that, the ruling elites have always deployed, particularly in this country, where we've had waves of xenophobia and anti-immigrant hysteria. And, I also think back the history of censorship, the history of attacks on the First Amendment. We have always been very proud of the First Amendment, but really since, the beginning of this country, it has always been tenuous. The John Adams administration went after people's First Amendment rights. I mean, this fellow is a founding father, right? He was literally the second president. That's how long it took, right? You can look back at World War I and the suppression of speech, the suppression of the anti-war movement, the criminalization and deportation of radicals and activists and organizers, particularly in the labor movement. We can think back to the Red Scare. We've had arguably multiple Red Scares in this country. In some ways, you could look at it as what happened around Haymarket in the 1800s was an initial Red Scare, particularly targeting anarchist-leaning folks. We saw it again during World War I. We saw people like Eugene Debs imprisoned for giving a speech, right? An American citizen imprisoned for giving a speech. He did not incite violence or anything of the sort. Then, of course, the most famous Red Scare during the 1950s, during the McCarthy era, which again targeted our labor movement in particular. We saw a lot of labor leaders and activists purged from our movement.
Right.
And so, it's those things are weighing on my mind as we talk about these stories. And I think solidarity is going to be really, really important, that we look out for one another and have each other's back in this moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about Oklahoma. Again, the phone number is 844-899-TVLR, folks, 844-899-8857 if you want to call in. Did have Greg in the chat. Greg, the letter carrier who called in, and Donovan from Utah called in and said, we shouldn't even accept the framing, et cetera. And I was like, I didn't get from Greg that he was like a big, I didn't think that Greg was a big Doge fan, but he was just trying to say, that like, look, if you actually do want to go after efficiency stuff, then here's a couple of ideas or something like that. And Greg did say in the chat, very skeptical of Doge. So, there you go. That was my anticipation. I think that I was picking up what you were putting down, Greg. So, Adam, there was a couple of stories out of Oklahoma that we wanted to talk about today, and the first one being about some official trying to advertise basically for this anti-union competitor for teachers in the state. Can you talk to us about what's going on there? Oh. Okay, looks like Adam's internet connection is not great. So Adam, if you get back on, let me know, and we'll talk about this the teachers union stuff. But I had another Oklahoma story myself. Like I said earlier in the program, I ratioed the governor of Oklahoma. And this was a very funny tweet that the governor of Oklahoma did. The governor of Oklahoma had this tweet where they said his name is, let's see, what is his name? Maybe I can find it. Where'd the tweet go? Yeah, here we go. Governor Kevin Stitt tweeted a graph or a picture, a map of the United States, where he said with all the states and had 1, 2, and 3 ranked, and the map was of where the states ranked in terms of profit per employee for Fortune 500 companies. And so Oklahoma was the Oklahoma governor, Kevin Stitt, was really excited about this because Oklahoma came in number one in profit per employee for Fortune 500 companies. He said in his tweet, companies are more efficient when they operate in Oklahoma because of our business-friendly policies, folks. When business is booming, everybody wins. And so that last bit, when business is booming, everybody wins, I thought that was interesting. And so I just thought I'd do like a little Google search. And I will say, it didn't come to me independently. I saw another Twitter account said something similar. They mentioned it was the guy who runs the Union Drip account. I can't remember his name, but I saw his personal account. He tweeted that Oklahoma is in the bottom 10 states for worker wages. So it's number 41. So there are only 9 other states in the union where the median worker makes less money than Oklahoma. And so the idea that, when business is booming, everybody wins, it's like, well, is that, who is everybody exactly? What does that mean? Everybody wins. Because I don't think that word means what do you think it means, that Inigo Montoya quote. I mean, it's just so frustrating seeing stuff like this. And, bragging about it because he didn't think that like normal people would see this tweet, I guess. And so I quote tweeted it. I said, if Oklahoma is number one in profit per employee, but in the bottom 10 states in worker wages, what is happening to all the profit? What's happening to all the profit? If you got all this money rolling around for people to have, but your workers are more poor than every state in the union, save like 9 of them, 9 of the 50, then where's all this money going? And of course, we know, I know, people listening to the show know, and he knows where the money is going. It's going to rich people. It's going to the billionaire class, the owning class, employers, businesses, not workers, not communities. And the Fortune 500 stuff it's worth sitting on that for a little bit, because so many of these companies are, the rich people don't even live there. Right? I mean, this is something that we talked about with Warrior Met Coal. When Warrior Met Coal was bought out by BlackRock and Vanguard and all of these private equity firms, the wealthy people who bought it, who are now getting the profits, don't even live in Alabama. So you don't even get in Alabama now the value of having a rich person to go and spend money at the car dealership or at a local fancy restaurant or anything like that. Because the people are literally sucking profit out of the state, in Warrior Met Coal's instance, out of the state's natural resources and the labor of people. And in Oklahoma's case, the labor of the employees, sucking money out of them and sending that off to some freak in New York or DC, right? Some investment banker or something. And so it's not good. It's actually not good for the community. When businesses are booming, everybody succeeds. It's actually not the case. And those two numbers juxtaposed together really prove it. Number 1 for profit, bottom 10 in worker wages. You should work on fixing that, I think. Is Adam back on? Okay.
There you are. I think I'm back on.
Okay, yes, I can hear you now. I can hear you. So yeah, what are your thoughts about that? And then we can talk about your other Oklahoma story if we're able to keep you.
Yeah, I appreciate that you pointed out that juxtaposition between profit and the wages that the workers are actually earning. I think how you fix that, right, is union power, right? When workers are able to come together and organize and collectively bargain and actually expand democracy into the economic sphere, that's how you can put some of those profits back into the pockets of workers who, by the way, will then go out and spend that money in the community. And something that the brother from UAW mentioned this morning in our earlier interview about how, if they win a good contract in Volkswagen at Chattanooga, how that really will benefit Chattanooga as a whole, right? If all of these workers have a little bit more spending money, if they have better conditions, better quality of life, more time to spend with their family, able to visit the doctor when they need to, take care of their health and welfare, and take the family out for a vacation every now and then, or take the family out to eat. Those sorts of things grow the economy from the bottom up. I don't think it's entirely a coincidence that arguably the most booming time in America was at the height of union density in America, because you were able to sustain economic growth through ordinary people, and ordinary people were able to sustain their families, at least a lot, in a more common way than we've seen in the last couple decades. So, it's interesting. I appreciate you pointing that out. And Oklahoma got some interesting stories coming out of there. That's for sure.
Talk to
I'm
us
no
about
expert on Oklahoma, but
not an expert on Oklahoma, not an Oklahoma expert, but talk to us about that the teachers union competitor that you were telling me about.
Yeah, it sounds like the some of the establishment in Oklahoma is pushing the narrative of quote unquote left-wing teachers unions. And as someone who's been around, education associations, and I say association deliberately because many of them do not actually proclaim to be unions. Many of them identify as professional organizations or professional associations. I've been around, a lot of these circles for many years here in the South, and there just frankly aren't a lot of left wingers. You can find some progressives, you can find some liberals. There aren't very many left wingers that I've met, and I have looked for them. So, the idea that you should ditch the association for being too left wing is frankly hilarious. But we have those sorts of outfits in Alabama. There are competitors to the Alabama Education Association and the American Federation of Teachers, which are the two primary organizations for educators. There are other groups out there who basically sell a form of liability insurance and explicitly promote themselves as being more conservative or right-wing. One of them even proclaims to be Christian in nature. So I guess when your superintendent writes you up and suspends you, they're going to pray for you. I'm not sure if they're going to provide a lawyer or file a grievance. Maybe they'll take up a collection. But
a love offering.
Yeah, perhaps. Me personally, if my job is on the line, if I've been falsely accused of something or made an honest mistake, even, I want folks who are going to have my back and actually represent me. And the idea that you should ditch your union or your organization in these cases often because you don't agree with their politics is also something I fundamentally reject. I think members can and should try to shape the political direction of the unions that they belong to. And you're not always going to agree because that's the nature of democratic organizations that are mass organizations. Like, it's just hard to get a bunch of people to agree on the same thing. You're not always going to agree with these institutions. But I think we had a comment from a letter carrier earlier online who wanted to ditch the NALC. Again, I understand that these unions are institutions led by humans. They are human institutions. They are not perfect. But they are important tools that we have. And I don't think you throw away the tool just because it's not being used properly, in your opinion, right? That doesn't make sense to me. And I think to write off unions writ large because of one particular experience or even one particular union that you're not happy with. We spend a lot of time on this show often criticizing folks in the labor movement and trying to hold people accountable. We don't always make friends because of that. But that is the nature of democratic institutions where every voice is supposed to be important. And you as a member have both a right and a responsibility to be involved and engaged and, push your perspective forward and hopefully organize with coworkers and other members to, get your agenda out there. Sometimes you lose. That's the nature of it. But, again, I don't think you write it off, but, it is a little bizarre. I believe it was the state superintendent in Oklahoma that was pushing this. But he has been a fierce opponent of public education out there. Haven't followed it super closely, but what I have picked up, it's pretty scary to see folks elevated to state superintendent who are fundamentally opposed to the public schools that they're supposed to be overseeing. But look at what's happening in DC.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do this segment quickly before, and then we'll wrap up by talking about the federal workers. This one is one that I wanted to call people's attention to, that Elon Musk is bringing a private equity guy in to try to find efficiencies at the Social Security Administration.
What could go wrong?
Yeah. What could go wrong? This from the New York Times. A private equity investor who is one of Elon Musk's closest confidants has taken a new role in the Social Security Administration. Let me get this a little bit better. Okay. A development that could be politically combustible given the program's popularity with voters and Mr. Musk's apparent intent to make major changes at the agency. The investor, Antonio Gracias, who has served on the boards of Tesla and SpaceX, has started a job at the administration as part of the Musk-led cutting effort known as the Doji, according to documents seen by the New York Times. Of the more than 50 people who have joined Mr. Musk in Washington, almost none have as extensive a history with him as Mr. Gracias. And so, they go on to talk kind of about their history and stuff like this. And, I just want to point out that this is so scary that we're going to have a private equity guy running Social Security. I don't know how closely y'all follow the news, and maybe you follow the news closer than I do, and so maybe you've got a better idea of like the benefits of private equity. But I have never, I can't remember one where the story was, private equity came in and bought this business, and now it's doing great. The service is better. The workers are being treated better. They've had investment in the company, and everything is just going great. Everything's great. I am not aware, maybe you are, I'm not, of one story, even just one, even like just a singular one story where private equity has improved the situation. And just as a to foot stomp on this point a little bit more, I want to share with you a private equity story from literally just the last week or two about Joann's. Let's play this clip from More Perfect Union.
People love Joann's. So why is it closing? Well, a lot of it has to do with private equity. In December of 2010, the private equity firm Leonard Green & Partners offered to buy Joann's for $1.6 billion. In March of 2011, Joann's shareholders voted to approve the sale, making the public company private. Before Leonard Green & Partners took over, Joann's had reported record profits. The company's stock was trading at around $45. It was set to open 60 new stores and had no outstanding debt. A decade later, Joann's re-entered the market at $12 a share and then promptly filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, citing over $1 billion in debt. That $1 billion should sound familiar because it's the same money from the private equity sale in 2011. You see, when private equity firms purchase companies, the firm doesn't take on the debt. Instead, the private equity firm borrows money on behalf of the company it's buying in order to buy it, saddling the company, not the firm, with the debt, resulting in the fact that companies bought by private equity are far more likely to file for bankruptcy. In the retail sector alone, private equity has been responsible for over 600,000 job losses since 2013. In fact, months before the Joann's sale in 2010, Leonard Green & Partners bought J. Crew for $3 billion. Under the private equity firm's ownership, consumers complained of declining quality. By May of 2020, J. Crew had filed for bankruptcy, primarily due to the debt it accrued from the buyout a decade earlier. So it's no wonder, really, that Joann's announced in January that it was filing for bankruptcy again. Its second time in under a year. Only this time, the company will be closing all 800 of its stores. Joann's employs over 19,000 people.
19,000 people going to be without a job now because of these private equity vultures. Thousands of communities are going to be without anywhere for home crafts and stuff like that. There was a meme that was it's the skeleton meme. Who's the Grim Reaper? It was a Grim Reaper meme, and where the Grim Reaper's like greeting this person who's dying, and so the person he's greeting is Joanne, and Joanne, the company, asks, "Was I a good craft store?" And the Grim Reaper was like, "No, but for many people, you were the only one they had." Right? And so it's kind of like a silly thing, but it is genuinely sad. Thousands of people are going to lose their job. Thousands of communities losing a piece of the community, and also that these private equity vultures could squeeze all of the value that they could get out of this property and cut it loose, right? And that's what they want to do with Social Security. And here's another story from here in Alabama. Warrior Met Coal. Y'all will remember us talking about them a lot. Just as a reminder, because we've got a lot of new listeners, Warrior Met Coal is a coal company, if you can imagine, in Alabama, and miners there went on strike in 2021 because back in 2015, the same mines were owned by a different company, Jim Walters Energy or Jim Walters Resources. They went bankrupt, and the properties were all purchased by private equity, BlackRock, stuff like that. And so as part of the buyout, they said, we're going to significantly cut workers' wages and benefits and all of that kind of stuff. And the agreement, the handshake deal that the union says that they made with the workers was that, look, we're going to make this deal. It's going to be a 5-year contract. You're going to take a lot on the chin. If we're doing well, you'll be able to make it back. So 2021, the contract comes up, and Warrior Met Coal, the new private equity-owned enterprise, says, no, never mind. We're just going to give you like less than a % raise. We're not really going to move on anything else. You're not going to be able to make up for inflation. Kick rocks, basically. And the union had tabulated that all of the cuts that the workers, all of the sacrifices that the workers made to make Warrior Met Coal profitable amounted to literally billions of dollars. Billions of dollars over that 5 years that would have gone into Brookwood, Alabama, into these coal miners' pockets that they could then spend on school supplies for their children, on dinners for their families, on entertainment for them and their friends. In Brookwood, Alabama, $5 billion stolen from the community and into bank accounts of private equity investors in New York, D.C., and Australia. They went on strike in 2021 to protest this, and ultimately they lost, right? They lost. They went back to work without a contract back in 2023 or early 2024, and they still don't have a contract. And so this company is still stealing billions of dollars from those workers in their community for the benefit of out-of-state, in some cases out-of-country investors, to the detriment of these workers in their communities. And again, that is what they want to do to Social Security. They want to squeeze all of the value that they can out of one of the most successful government programs in our country's history to your detriment. The Joannification of Social Security. The Warrior Met Coalification of Social Security. That's what this means. It's very concerning, very concerning. We'll wrap up here talking about federal workers. The Federal Unionists Network has emerged as kind of the cross-agency, cross-union leader of the federal worker resistance to the Trump administration's actions. I am honored to know so many of the people who are involved in this very, very successful rank and file led project. It's a very exciting thing. They had a webinar last week that you can find. Roland Martin live streamed it. And so you can find it there on YouTube. Federal Workers Let Us Work Mass Call. If you search that in YouTube, you can find the whole thing. Had a lot of really cool speakers. Had Sean Fain of the UAW, now because of the NIH Fellows, a federal employee union leader. Also had Liz Schuler, president of the AFL-CIO. Reverend Everett Kelly, president of AFGE. Had Matt Biggs, president of IFPTE. Had Greg Kassar from Texas, Chris Murphy from Connecticut, and most importantly, and these are the clips that I pulled, this is who we're going to react to, rank and file federal workers talking about the work that they do and how Doji wants to undermine it. It was a great thing, 2 hours. Really recommend finding it and watching the whole thing. But I did want to react to just a couple of them. And, we've been speaking about Social Security. Here's a clip of Rich Couture, president of AFGE's Social Security Council, talking about his work with the agency and and why it's so important to stand up against Elon Musk and his attacks on Social Security.
Grassroots activism rise up in response to the unprecedented attacks against the federal civil service.
Oh, hold on.
By its administration and by the class.
Can you? I accidentally, I was listening to it on 2x speed while I was prepping for this. Can you go on in the settings and go to playback speed and make it 1 times? Sorry, I forgot. I meant to change that setting. So hopefully we're doing that now, and we'll be able to start the clip back over at about 25:18.
Grassroots activism rise up in response to the unprecedented attacks against the federal civil service by this administration and by the billionaire class. It's that outpouring of energy that fills me with hope that we will not only just survive the challenges that lie ahead, but that we will thrive as a result with a stronger labor movement and greater respect for the working class. I'm proud, as you mentioned, I represent 42,000 bargaining unit employees at SSA. From the field office workers who help you with your Social Security cards and with retirement and disability claims, to the 800 number of workers helping to get your business done over the phone, to the hearings and appeals employees supporting SSA.
I want to pause it right there for a second. He mentioned the 1-800 workers who, help you over the phone. One of the proposals that these people are making, Elon Musk, let's see if I can find the reporting on it. No phone calls. There was, okay, so maybe that's not the case. I had read a report that the Trump administration was going to be trying to slash phone services as part of cost-cutting efforts by Doge. The Washington Post reported on a proposal last week that would end telephone service for claims processing and direct deposit bank account transactions. The Post reports that older and disabled adults would instead be required to conduct their business online or at an in-person field office. The Social Security Administration also plans to close some of the agency's field offices in a cost-cutting push, which would mean longer trips for beneficiaries whose closest office is being closed. But the SSA told Barron's it had nothing to announce at this time regarding the report. Later on Wednesday, the agency issued a statement calling media reports inaccurate. So, I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully they keep the phone service because, especially when you're talking about Social Security, we're talking about elderly people, the capacity to, be able to navigate stuff online is a little bit, can be a little bit more difficult than navigating it in person or over the phone. Right. And so maybe that report is inaccurate. We'll see. We'll continue to follow that, but let's continue.
Claimants, to the IT specialists that keep our systems running, and so many more positions, so many more offices. SSA workers truly keep this most vital program working for America. And like so many other agencies and programs across the federal government, Social Security is under attack. Social Security is a promise that this nation made to itself 90 years ago this year, that no American should have to suffer in poverty when they retire after a lifetime of work or because they're no longer able to work because of a disability. Social Security also takes care of dependents as well. But after 90 years, that promise is at risk of being broken. The integrity and even the legitimacy of the Social Security system is under siege. DOGE is rifling through agency systems, accessing the most sensitive information belonging to virtually every American, allegedly looking for fraud that somehow regular audits haven't found. DOGE has listed about 50 Social Security offices all over the country as having their leases terminated, which means the public's access to services and benefits in their communities is at risk if those offices close. As with other federal agencies, Social Security workers feel tremendous anxiety, frustration, anger, and confusion over whether they're going to have a job in the near future, with the ever-present risk of layoffs hanging over our heads. Many wonder if they should retire or quit. And just today, for absolutely no business reason at all, the agency announced that they were returning all of the majority of our bargaining unit back to the offices full time, despite knowing the historic attrition that action will cause, very well leading potentially to the closure of yet more field offices. The overall situation has depressed morale and is weighing down productivity, hurting public service. Social Security is already in the midst of a customer service crisis caused by more than 15 years of chronic underfunding and a 50-year staffing low. Today, Social Security serves 12 million more people than it did in 2010, with 10,000 fewer workers. We literally cannot afford to lose anyone. With every IT specialist we lose, it puts our ancient and fragile mainframe system containing all of your information at risk, not just of outages, but even total failure. With every frontline worker lost, wait times, processing times, and service delays grow, putting the services Americans paid for with their FICA contributions at risk of collapse. All of these conditions are feeding a perfect storm that will undermine public confidence in Social Security's promise to deliver a guaranteed monthly benefit and access to those benefits. Adding insult to injury, Elon Musk and others have continued to spread and repeat lies about Social Security being a Ponzi scheme, riddled with extreme fraud that only they can find. This misinformation is intended to weaken the public's faith in our programs and open the door to destroying the Social Security system as we know it. And if anyone has seen the markets this week, then you know why protecting Social Security is so important to the income security of millions of Americans. We simply can't gamble the promise on the stock market, and we can't gamble our ability to serve the public with arbitrary layoffs and other draconian measures that will deplete an already understaffed and demoralized agency. Social Security workers deserve better, as do all of you on this call deserve better. That's why I'm excited and I'm proud to stand alongside all of you as we fight to defend Social Security, our other programs, and fight to defend the entire civil service. Thank you.
So that's really important stuff there, and I want to foot stomp on the lies that they are telling about Social Security, saying 350-year-old people are getting Social Security payments and stuff like that. They know it's a lie, and it's meant to undermine confidence in Social Security so that when they go to cut it, when they go to take away your benefits, when they go to fire more people, the thought that will be in your head is, oh, Social Security, that thing that's wasting billions, trillions of dollars on sending money to 350-year-olds. Yeah, that's not a problem. That's why they're doing this. They know it's a lie, and you need to know it's a lie so that you don't think that when they try to take your benefits from you. There was another worker that was on the call. Patrick Sear is an IT employee at the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, and what he said was really important, and the work that he does, and so I wanted to highlight that too. Let's listen to Patrick.
Medicaid Services. Go ahead, Pat.
Yeah, so I took a job in government because I fundamentally believe in public service, in providing critical services that people need and deserve as effectively and efficiently as possible. I work on the things DOGE pretends to care about, modernizing critical IT systems so that they don't crash when you need them, fighting real fraud, not this invented stuff, so that your tax dollars go to medical care, not scammers. Improving our cybersecurity so that your medical information doesn't get hacked. CMS provides funding for hospitals, nurses, doctors, so that they can focus on providing care. Medicare and Medicaid are the bedrock of the American healthcare system. And not just for medical care, but for jobs across the entire country. DOGE doesn't care about any of that. They don't want to improve Medicare. They don't want Medicare to exist. They want to gut Medicare, scrap it for parts, sell it to their rich friends, and then they want to turn around and charge you more for worse healthcare. At CMS, we were understaffed before any of this started. And now we're losing staff with decades of expertise that we can't replace. And at the same time, we're losing probationary employees, people new to federal service, the next generation of civil servants. And that's going to take years to replace. Meanwhile, for those of us that are still here, it's chaos. How are we supposed to plan programs for years out in the future when we don't know if we're going to have jobs tomorrow? Medicare is not Twitter. You can't just turn it off and on again and expect that everything will be fine. What happens when a SpaceX intern writes buggy code and your health information gets hacked? What happens when Elon decides that your surgery, that's waste? What happens when your local hospital closes because DOGE stopped payments to them? We need to fight back now while we still have these programs.
There you go. So that was really, really good from Patrick, I thought. And so, wanted to relay those to y'all because those were some really good, testimonies about the work that federal employees are doing and, putting faces to some of these cuts that they are, that they're trying to push through. As we're wrapping up talking about federal workers, there's a continuing resolution, they're calling it, continuing resolution to fund the government yesterday, and it passed. It ended up passing thanks to 10 Democrats. And the reason that I say they're calling it a continuing resolution is because it included cuts to non-defense spending as well as an increase to defense spending. And so it was not a clean CR. It was a dirty CR. They did not negotiate with Democrats at all. This was a partisan continuing resolution. And but the principle of the thing was that why should Democrats go along and put their stamp of approval on the idea of what's been going on now with Elon Musk, I would argue, illegally cutting jobs, cutting funding for federal agencies? How can Congress, why should Democrats accede to funding without assurances that that money will be spent in the way that Congress allocates it, right? And so it's just so frustrating. And a lot of the Democrats who voted in favor of this say that they are doing this because of federal employees, that they are we don't want to we don't want to cause layoffs or whatever. And that is difficult to square with the reality that actually the federal employee unions, the largest one, AFGE, as well as one of the other large ones, IFPTE, both called on congressional Democrats not to support this continuing resolution because that would basically put their stamp of approval on what Elon Musk and Doge is doing. And so what we have seen is literally last night, only hours after the continuing resolution was passed, Trump issued an executive order to eliminate, quote, to the maximum extent possible with applicable law, the following agencies. The Federal Mediation and Conciliation Service. That's a really important one for unions. The United States Agency for Global Media, the Woodrow Wilson International Center for Scholars and the Smithsonian Institution, the Institute of Museum and Library Services, the United States Interagency Council on Homelessness, the Community Development Financial Institutions Fund, and the Minority Business Development Agency. And so it's not about even, do you think those things should exist? Should they not exist? Should they have a higher budget or a lower budget? Congress just passed funding to these agencies, and literally hours after that, Trump is issuing an executive order to try to eliminate these agencies. And Democrats allowed it. But not because of the workers, because the workers' unions said that you should oppose these funding resolutions because this continuing resolution, because it's not a real clean CR and it would put your stamp of approval on what's going on. And that's exactly what we saw literally hours after. So, a really concerning time in our country, but federal workers really are at the center of it, and it's important for federal workers to participate in the resistance to this stuff. There was the call was all to basically plug people in, particularly federal employees, into the federal unionist network and the actions that they have going on across the country, and to give federal workers resources to be able to have their own actions. And so the website is savepublicservices.com. savepublicservices.com. And you can fill out the form to be a part of the Rapid Response Network. And what the Federal Unionist Network is trying to do, their kind of theory is that they want a huge network of people to be ready at the drop of a dime anytime there's a federal agency that says 30 people are being laid off at the Social Security Agency, 10 people are being laid off at your local VA, 20 people are being laid off at the commissary. Whatever it is, they want federal workers in particular, but allies as well, to get plugged into this network so that you can be a part of calling a rapid response press conference immediately after stuff like that happens, so that you can be notified when somebody else calls a press conference and the community can mobilize immediately. So savepublicservices.com. savepublicservices.com. And in addition to that, if you're a federal employee, the Federal Unionist Network will be able to connect you to your union. Or if you're not unionized, they will be able to connect you to a group of people who are dedicated to organizing new unions. savepublicservices.com. And there you go. That's it for the show today, folks. Appreciate everybody tuning in. 844-899-TVLR. 844-899-8857. If you would like to leave a voicemail throughout the week, we might respond to it on the next program. TVLR.fm/contact to leave us written comments. Let us know about a story that we may have missed. Let us know about stories, interviews that we should be doing, stuff like that. And you can also go to TVLR.fm to subscribe to our newsletters, where you'll get where you will get Last Week in Southern Labor and Boss Watch in your email inbox every single week. Appreciate everybody tuning in. Adam, do you have anything else before we go?
Yeah, I apologize for the technical difficulties today. As Jacob mentioned at the beginning of the show, we have severe weather coming through Alabama today. So just want to encourage everyone to stay safe, be weather aware. Appreciate all the folks tuning in today and appreciate the engagement. Do leave us a voicemail throughout the week. It's a really cool way for you to let us know what's going on in your neck of the woods, but also to get your message out, right? So I know that APWU as well as NALC are, organizing days of action over the next week or so. Congress is on recess next week. There's a lot of actions related to that. I've failed to mention this earlier in our plugs, but there will be a series of demonstrations here in the Huntsville area over the next week, starting tomorrow with a rally at Big Spring Park downtown in Huntsville. I know a couple of us will be there to speak on behalf of labor union members. So, a lot going on. Federal workers, please do get involved with Federal Unionist Network. I really appreciate the good work they're doing. But even if you're not a federal worker, we are all being impacted right now. We are all dealing with threats to our livelihoods and our rights, and it's important to organize. So I would just encourage people to find ways to get plugged in. Feel free to always reach out to us. Feel free to, let us know if you're looking for something. I know we had a brother from Virginia reach out to us recently about trying to organize in his state, right? And we were able to kind of direct him to somebody. And that's the sort of thing we do love to do. We do this show because we really are passionate about the potential of the labor movement to build broad-based working class solidarity, which is what we need to deal with these, multiple layers of crisis that are bearing down upon us. So that is really what we believe. And we also believe that a strong democratic militant labor movement is essential to building this people power. But we also need that power in the community. We need allies in the community. We need strong coalitions with the community, with folks from faith backgrounds, nonprofits, civic organizations, you name it. We need, that kind of broad people power. So thank you, everyone who is tuning in, everyone who's subscribed and liked and all that good stuff. That really does make a difference, and we hope you'll spread the word. And encourage other folks to, call in, leave us a voicemail. We are trying to amplify the voices of working class people here in the South. That's why we do what we do. But for those of you outside the South, we do really appreciate you. It's really cool to know that folks outside the South are paying attention and want to hear what's going on down here. The South is a very, very important region strategically to the future of this country. And it is critical that we organize here in the South. So we appreciate all the support, and we can't do it without you. So thanks again, and I hope everyone has a great rest of your weekend. Don't forget those Labor Notes calls coming up next week. And just sending my love and solidarity from Alabama, y'all.
All right. With that out of the way, we'll see you next week, folks. Thanks for tuning in.